Chapter 30:18. Qin Feiyang also agreed with the conversation between the two of them. Everyone had a story. The only difference was that some stories were joyous while others were sad. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang looked at the woman and said with a smile, "Miss, I have a presumptuous request. Please say it." The woman smiled slightly. Qin Feiyang asked, "Can you sell me some of your wine?" The woman was stunned and asked, "How much do you need?" Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "Not much, just 100 jars. The woman was stunned. Yun Ziyang also looked at Qin Feiyang speechlessly. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang was puzzled. "Brother, the better the wine, the harder it is to brew. Take this immortal drunken wine, for example. Although it is only a superb wine, the brewing process is quite long. Otherwise, Tianyue restaurant would not sell it for a limited time. You want 100 jars at once. Even if Tianyue restaurant has ready-made ones, they can't give it to you, because they have to sell it to other customers," Yun Ziyang said. "Is it so troublesome to brew wine?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "You are a typical noob. The process of brewing wine is extremely complicated. It is undoubtedly more troublesome to brew a superb wine." Yun Ziyang shook his head. Qin Feiyang looked at the woman and said with a faint smile, "Okay, take it that I said that. No, no, no. I should be grateful that the 3 young masters helped me out." The woman quickly waved her hand and then turned to look at the waiter standing at the door and said, "Go to the wine cellar and get 100 jars. "Yes." One of the waiter nodded and immediately ran into the back hall of the restaurant. "Thank you, miss. Do you want to pay with divine crystals or soul stones?" Qin Feiyang asked. "No, just take it as a thank you gift." The woman smiled slightly. "Is this okay?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "Why not? Do you dislike it?" The woman smiled. "No, no." Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Yun Ziyang looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously and asked, "Brother Qin, I don't think you're interested in this kind of thing. Why do you want to buy so many?" "Brother Yun, there's something you don't know. Although I personally don't like drinking, I have a companion who likes it very much. This is all prepared for him." Qin Feiyang smiled. "I see. Then your companion is really lucky to have met a friend like you." Yun Ziyang chuckled. Very soon, the shop assistant walked over with a chinquin pouch in his hand. "Young master, please accept it." The woman took the Cosmos sack and handed it to Qin Feiyang. "Thank you." Qin Feiyang checked it and sent it to the Black Tortoise world. He thought to himself, "Little Jean, this is for you." "What is it?" The 5-clawed golden dragon grabbed the chinquin bag suspiciously. "Won't you know if you take a look?" Qin Feiyang smiled. Hearing this, the 5-clawed golden dragon was overjoyed. He immediately took out a sigh and gulped it down. "That's not right." But suddenly, he frowned. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang was startled. "This is similar to the immortal wine. Is there nothing better than the immortal wine?" The 5-clawed golden dragon said, "Just be content. Tianfeng City is just a small city. It's not easy to find such a good wine." Qin Feiyang was speechless. He actually despised it. "All right, I'll make do. If there's a chance, you must get me some divine wine." The 5-clawed golden dragon chuckled. "Sure." Qin Feiyang replied helplessly. "What a drunkard." "Young Master Su, please come in." Suddenly, the voice of the shop assistant at the door sounded. "Young Master Su?" Qin Feiyang and Madman were startled. They turned their heads and saw a young man in purple walking into the restaurant with his head lowered. However, he was completely different from the high-spirited young man they met at the Demon Tower. At this moment, his whole person seemed to be dispirited. Young Master Su raised his head and looked at the hall. His eyes fell on Qin Feiyang and Madman. When they saw young Master Su's face, Qin Feiyang and Madman were stunned. Young Master Su's whole face was bruised and swollen. "What happened to you?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Young Master Su walked to Qin Feiyang and Madman's side, lowered his head and said, "I'm sorry, I really can't find so many soul stones." "Soul stones?" Yun Ziyang and the woman looked at the 3 of them suspiciously. "It's okay. I didn't plan to ask you for it." Qin Feiyang waved his hand. "I know. I just went to the demon tower. The tower master said that you just wanted to teach me a lesson. So I specially came to thank you. Young Master Su looked at the two of them and said, How did you know we were here? Madman was suspicious. Now the entire Wind City knows that you killed the people of the City Lord Mansion here. What's so strange about me knowing? Young Master Su said sullenly. The news spread really fast. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said with a smile, Since you're here, then sit down and talk. What the hell happened to you? It's all because of my father. It wasn't easy for me to muster up the courage to go back and ask him for the soul stones. In the end, he called me a wastrel and directly punched and kicked me. If I didn't beg for mercy, I would have been beaten to death by him. Yes, it's my fault, but I'm his flesh and blood after all. Is there a need to treat me like this? My big brother, who is the young master of our Su family, has caused no less trouble than me. But I've never seen my father punish him, not even scold him. I really wonder if I'm his biological son. Young Master Su was getting angrier and angrier. In the end, he almost jumped up. Calm down, calm down. The house leader has already told me about your situation. This kind of thing is very common in big families. What you need to do now is not to be discouraged, nor to complain, but to work hard to prove to them that you're not worse than your big brother. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. I know, that's why I'm working so hard to refine pills. That's why I want to enter the Demon Palace. But now, I don't know if I can enter the Demon Palace with my little ability. Young Master Su shook his head and sighed. Where there's a will, there's a way. Qin Feiyang smiled. Unfilial son, get out here. But at this moment, an angry roar sounded outside. It's over. Why is he here? Young Master Su's face suddenly changed. Who is it? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. The woman said, The Su family's patriarch, his father. What is he doing here? Is he looking for trouble with us? Madman frowned. Obviously not. He should have known that young Master Su came to find you. He was afraid that this would anger the City Lord Mansion and the Su family, so he came to find young Master Su. The woman said, So timid, and the patriarch of the family, what a joke. Madman's eyes were full of contempt. The woman couldn't help but smile bitterly. Who in Tianfeng City wasn't afraid of the City Lord Mansion? Not to mention Tianfeng City, other cities were the same. In a city, excluding the people from the Demon Palace, the City Lord Mansion was the biggest. Get out here, didn't you hear? The Su family's patriarch's angry voice sounded outside again. Young Master Su's neck shrank. Looking at Qin Feiyang and Madman, he bowed and said, Thank you again. After saying that, he turned around and ran out in a panic. On the street outside, because of the death of the old man in black, there were already many people around. Now, because of the arrival of the Su family's patriarch, even more people ran over to watch. In front of the crowd, there was a middle-aged man wearing a black robe. His whole person was like a furious lion. Beside him, there were a few guards. That's right. The middle-aged man in black was the Su family's patriarch. Father, young Master Su walked out of the restaurant, lowered his head, and walked in front of the Su family's patriarch with a face full of fear. Unfilial son. The middle-aged man in black raised his hand and slapped young Master Su's face. Slap. Young Master Su flew out on the spot and rolled on the ground in a sorry state. Do you know that they killed the City Lord Mansion's people and actually came to find them? Are you trying to kill our Su family? What an evil beast. See if I don't beat him to death. The middle-aged man in black was burning with anger, and he went forward to punch and kick him. Although the surrounding people showed sympathy, no one went forward to stop him, as if they were already used to it. Young Master Su roared, Father, I just came to thank them. Thank them? They tricked you, and you still come to thank them? I think you're not only a waste, but also a fool with no intelligence, idiot. The Su family's patriarch was even more annoyed. They're not like that, and they didn't ask me for more soul stones. Young Master Su roared hysterically. The Su family's patriarch was stunned, stopped the movement of his hand, and said in surprise, They didn't ask you for more soul stones? Yes. Young Master Su nodded. They don't even want soul stones. Are these too stupid? The Sioux family's patriarch glanced at the restaurant, thought for a while, and coldly snorted, "Even so, you shouldn't have come to find them. Do you believe that I won't expel you from the Sioux family now?" Young Master Sioux's eyes trembled. "Even a vicious tiger won't eat its cubs. I've never seen a father who treats his own son like this. In my opinion, if he is really expelled from the Sioux family by you, it will be a good thing for him." At this moment, Qin Feiyong and Madman walked out, looked at the injured young Master Sioux, then looked at the Sioux family's patriarch, and said lightly, "Originally, this was a family matter of the Sioux family. He didn't want to interfere, but this person was too much. Beating him in the street, he didn't give his son any face at all. In the future, how can young Master Sioux stay in Wind City? I'm afraid that when he sees people, he will have to lower his head in inferiority." The Sioux family's patriarch raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyong and Madman, his eyebrows slightly raised, and asked, "You two are the two who tricked this unfilial son?" "Yes." Qin Feiyong nodded. "You guys really have guts. Although this unfilial son is a good-for-nothing, he is still a member of my Sioux family. You actually dare to scheme against him." A cold light flashed in the Sioux family's patriarch's eyes. "You also know that he is a member of your Sioux family? You beat him in the street like this. Aren't you slapping your Sioux family's face with your own hands? Besides, he doesn't seem to have done much wrong." Qin Feiyong said lightly. The Sioux family's patriarch shouted, "He was cheated of so many soul stones by you, and it's not a big mistake? But we didn't ask for it, did we?" Qin Feiyong frowned. "You have to dare to ask for it." The Sioux family's patriarch sneered. "And?" Qin Feiyong and Madman looked at each other. What does he mean? Does this person think that they don't want the soul stones because they are afraid of the Sioux family? Chapter 30:19. What's the big deal? It's all in the past. What's there to argue about? Let's all take a step back and stop pursuing this matter. Seeing that Qin Feiyong and Madman's expressions were getting gloomier and gloomier, Yun Ziang and the woman quickly came out to smooth things over. They even dared to kill people from the city lord's mansion, let alone a mere patriarch of the Sioux family. They were worried that Qin Feiyong and Madman would kill again. But the patriarch of the Sioux family didn't appreciate it. Not only did he not appreciate it, but he also looked at the two contemptuously and said, "Are you qualified to speak? It's really a filthy place. There are all kinds of monsters here." The woman immediately raised her eyebrows and looked at the patriarch of the Sioux family. "Patriarch of the Sioux family, you have to make it clear. My Tianyue building doesn't rob or steal. We do business seriously. How is it a filthy place? Doing business in a proper way? If you're serious, why do you wear a veil all day? Do you think everyone doesn't know that you're doing this just to pretend to be mysterious and attract the attention of men? This way, more people will come to your Tianyue building. May I ask, a woman like you, saying that you're serious, don't you think it's ridiculous?" The patriarch of the Sioux family had a look of ridicule. The woman's gaze immediately darkened. Tianyue restaurant had always been doing business in a serious manner. They had never done anything immoral or immoral. At this moment, he actually said this to her. This was an insult to her personality. "Interesting." Madman suddenly grinned. Yun Ziang and the woman looked at each other and fell silent. They didn't want to persuade him anymore, because people like the patriarch of the Sioux family weren't worth their saliva. Madman looked at the patriarch of the Sioux family and laughed. "We don't dare to take your Sioux family's soul stone. I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with trash like you." The patriarch of the Sioux family snorted and looked at young Master Sioux. "Get out of here right now." Young Master Sioux's eyes trembled. He quickly got up and turned to leave. Qin Feiyong and Madman ignored young Master Sioux and kept their eyes on the patriarch of the Sioux family. The patriarch of the Sioux family glanced at the two disdainfully and was about to leave. But at this moment, "Don't rush. I haven't said anything yet." The madman spoke, his eyes filled with mockery. The Sioux family's patriarch's gaze turned cold. He turned to look at Madman and said, "Brat, don't act recklessly." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left. His disdainful attitude was as if he was looking at an ant. "You're courting death. All right, let's see how your Sioux family will kill me today. I'm telling you." Give me 100 billion soul stones in 1 hour. Otherwise, I'll flatten your Sioux family. The madman's eyes flashed with killing intent. What? 100 billion soul stones? A commotion broke out among the crowd. Even if the Sioux family was a big family in Tianfeng City, it was impossible for them to take out so many spirit stones at once. 100 billion. This was simply the rhythm of destroying the Sioux family. The Sioux family's patriarch suddenly froze and stopped in his tracks. His face suddenly turned gloomy to the extreme. Young Master Su also turned to look at Madman in shock. Madman glanced at young Master Su and said, "This has nothing to do with you." Young Master Su smiled bitterly. That was right. Indeed, it had nothing to do with him now. But his father wouldn't think this way. The Su family's clansmen wouldn't think this way either. They would only think that this was the trouble he brought to the Su family. Remember, 100 billion, not a single one less. Madman looked at the Su family's patriarch and laughed. Swish. The Su family's patriarch suddenly turned around and stared at Madman. Do you know the strength of my Su family? Do you know that I have a child in the demon palace? So what? Madman chuckled. You're courting death. The Su family's patriarch laughed sinisterly. Is that so? Then I'm looking forward to how you'll die. Madman smiled. Good, good, good. You're arrogant. Let's see how long you can be arrogant for. Soul stones? You bastards, don't even think about it. If you have the guts, come to the Su family and see if you can raze my Su family to the ground. The Su family's patriarch sneered and walked to young Master Su without looking back. He directly kicked him. Bastard, why aren't you leaving? He was completely using young Master Su as a punching bag. Swish. It was also at this moment. A figure suddenly descended from the sky. It was a middle-aged man in black armor. He was serious and dignified. It's the commander of the City Lord Mansion. I heard that his strength is the strongest in the entire City Lord Mansion, except for the City Lord. Everyone's pupils shrank as they whispered. When the Su family's patriarch saw the appearance of the middle-aged man in black armor, a trace of gloating appeared in his eyes. Qin Feiyong and Madman also looked up, but there was a trace of disdain in their eyes. The strongest existence? But he was only at the Great Perfection Undead stage. I thought that the City Lord would come personally, but I didn't expect that he would only send a small character like you. What? Is he looking down on me and not even interested in making a move? Madman snickered. The middle-aged man in black armor's eyes suddenly turned cold. When the surrounding people heard this, they all looked at Madman in disbelief. They never thought that this person would dare to be so arrogant in front of the City Lord Mansion's commander. He didn't put the City Lord Mansion in his eyes at all. If you want to apologize, then let your City Lord come personally. You? You can't replace him. Madman shook his head, then turned to look at Qin Feiyong and said with a smile, Why don't we continue drinking? And Qin Feiyong nodded and smiled. The two immediately turned around and walked towards the entrance of Tianyue restaurant. Apologize? Everyone was stunned. What did he mean by that? Did he think that the City Lord Mansion's commander was here to apologize to them? Was there something wrong with his brain? They killed someone from the City Lord Mansion and asked the City Lord to personally apologize to them? They were convinced. They were really convinced. What kind of people were they? Shouldn't there be a limit to their arrogance? By the way, Madman suddenly turned to look at the Su family's patriarch and grinned. Don't take my words as a joke. After saying that, he laughed and turned to enter Tianyue restaurant without looking back. The Su family's patriarch clenched his hands and rushed to the middle-aged man in black armor. He said angrily, Commander, look, is there any law? The middle-aged man in black armor's face was extremely gloomy. First time. This was really the first time that someone dared to look down on the City Lord Mansion like this. Boom. A monstrous aura suddenly erupted. When the Su family's patriarch saw this, he silently retreated to the side with a sneer in his eyes. Follow me to the City Lord Mansion immediately. The middle-aged man in black armor stared at Tianyue restaurant and shouted coldly. However, there was no response. You're courting death. The middle-aged man in black armor roared and a wisp of divine power emerged and blasted towards Tianyue restaurant below like lightning. Boom. With a loud bang, Tianyue restaurant suddenly collapsed. Qin Feiyong and the others, as well as a group of people, ran out with their faces covered in dirt. "Commander, why are you doing this?" The woman glared at the middle-aged man in black armor. "All of this happened because of you, so you can't escape the blame. Follow me to the City Lord Mansion." The middle-aged man in black armor looked at the woman and said gloomily, "Who do you think you are? How dare you act like a tyrant in front of me?" Madman stepped into the sky and exuded a monstrous aura like a demon god descending to the world. The middle-aged man in black armor also surged with killing intent and shouted, "City Lord, please take action and kill these arrogant people." "What? The City Lord is also here? Where is he?" Everyone looked at the sky in surprise. However, Madman turned a deaf ear and slapped at the middle-aged man in black armor. The middle-aged man in black armor smiled disdainfully and used an auxiliary divine art to retreat like lightning. Boom! At the same time, a terrifying divine might appeared and surged towards Madman from all directions. Following closely, a middle-aged man appeared out of thin air in the sky. He was about 1.8 meters tall and had a thin body. His cold face was filled with an intimidating majesty. His aura was like the ocean and unfathomable. "It's the City Lord." "Greetings, City Lord." Everyone present bowed and saluted. "City Lord?" Qin Feiyong and Madman sized up the middle-aged man. This was the City Lord of Tianfeng City? Half-step sovereign realm? The middle-aged man stood in the sky like a god, and the world trembled. Divine power enveloped Madman. Madman was immediately imprisoned in the void and couldn't move. "I thought it was some important figure who dared to act recklessly in my Tianfeng City. So it's just a few unknown clowns," the middle-aged man said coldly and pointed at Madman. A wisp of divine power appeared and shot towards Madman's forehead with an apocalyptic aura. "You're a half-step sovereign?" Madman immediately turned pale with fright. "That's right." The middle-aged man nodded. "Half-step sovereign." Qin Feiyong glanced at Yun Ziang with a trace of fear on his face. "Brother Yun, I didn't expect the City Lord of Tianfeng City to be so strong." "Yeah." Yun Ziang nodded. Madman roared anxiously, "What are you thinking? Come and save me." Yun Ziang looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "Brother Qin, go and help. The other party is a half-step sovereign. How can I help?" Qin Feiyong roared. Yun Ziang was stunned and said, "I don't believe that you only have this little ability." "What a joke. The other party is a half-step sovereign, but I can't abandon my brother." Qin Feiyong's face was filled with fear as he charged forward. However, when he arrived in front of Madman, he was also restrained by the City Lord's aura. Seeing this, the woman hurriedly said, "Young Master Yun, think of something, or they will definitely die." Yun Ziang couldn't help but frown. These two really only have this little ability? In the blink of an eye, the City Lord's divine power had already arrived, and a fatal danger enveloped Qin Feiyong and Madman. Not far away, the Su family patriarch sneered. With this little ability, they dared to act presumptuously in Tianfeng City? They really overestimated themselves. Seeing the divine power crazily charging over, Madman said angrily, "This Yun Ziang can really keep his composure. Maybe we're thinking too much. He doesn't have the ability to fight against a half-step sovereign." Qin Feiyong transmitted. That's right. They were actually using this opportunity to probe Yun Ziang's strength. As for the City Lord, this half-step sovereign, they really didn't put him in their eyes. However, Yun Ziang didn't seem to have any intention of making a move. Chapter 30:20. Then let's fight back. The madman's eyes flashed with killing intent. And Qin Feiyong responded and was about to summon the Sunset Divine Bow and other heaven-defying divine artifacts. Boom! But at this moment, a terrifying aura suddenly erupted from below. Following closely, a figure appeared in front of Qin Feiyong and the madman. Who else could it be but Yun Ziang? And Qin Feiyong and the madman looked at Yun Ziang's back in surprise. "Since we are friends, I naturally can't leave you in the lurch." Yun Ziang smiled without turning his head. Accompanied by a loud clang, a black dagger suddenly appeared in front of Yun Ziyang. Immediately, a monstrous sharp aura swept out in all directions, directly shattering the pressure that shrouded this space. Qin Feiyong and the madman felt their bodies lighten as they looked at the black dagger in surprise. The dagger was only about a foot long and was completely black, flickering with a dazzling divine light. This is a heaven-defying divine artifact? Qin Feiyong and the madman looked at each other. There was also a trace of surprise in the city lord's eyes, but then it was filled with disdain. But at the same time, Yun Ziyang grabbed Qin Feiyong and the madman and rushed to the woman's side like lightning. Then he wrapped the woman up and opened a space-time crack, disappearing without a trace. What? Space-time law. The city lord looked at the space-time crack in shock. He never thought that there would be someone among these people who had comprehended the space-time law. Not to mention the city lord. Even Qin Feiyong and the madman were shocked. Forget about the heaven-defying divine artifact. He actually grasped such a terrifying power of law. This Yun Ziyang was really unfathomable. The middle-aged man in black armor flew to the city lord's side and frowned. Sir, are we just going to let them run away like this? He grasped the space-time law. What can I do? The city lord glared at him angrily. The middle-aged man's pupil shrank. However, because it was too sudden this time, I didn't know that he had grasped the laws of space-time. The next time we meet them, we'll be prepared, and they won't have this chance. The city lord sneered and turned to leave. Outside the city, somewhere in the mountains, a space crack appeared, and 4 figures walked out one after another. It was Qin Feiyong and the other 3. Where is this? Qin Feiyong and madman looked down suspiciously. Outside the city, Yun Ziyang smiled. Hearing this, Qin Feiyong and Li Wuyo breathed a sigh of relief. Then, they turned to look at the space crack that was healing. There was also a hint of surprise in the woman's eyes. What's wrong with you guys? Yun Ziyang looked at the 3 of them suspiciously. Qin Feiyong smiled bitterly and said, Brother Yun, you really hid deeply. Hiding his strength? Yun Ziyang shook his head with a smile and said, Isn't it just the laws of space-time? It's no big deal. Qin Feiyong was stunned and said speechlessly, As far as I know, in the entire sky cloud realm, there aren't many who have comprehended the laws of space-time. Is that so? Yun Ziyang was taken aback and said with a smile, I haven't learned about this, but I've only comprehended the first profound ability of the laws of space-time. That's also very powerful. Qin Feiyong said. The first profound ability of the laws of space-time was space-time teleportation. Old Qin, there's a problem that I don't understand. Madman suddenly said, What problem? Qin Feiyong looked at him suspiciously. Isn't it said that as long as someone completely comprehended a law and stepped into the half-step ruler realm, they would be able to bestow a divine artifact with the power of space-time? And a divine artifact bestowed with the power of space-time is a heaven-defying divine artifact. Logically speaking, this city lord is a half-step ruler, so he should have as many heaven-defying divine artifacts as there are hairs on an ox. But why didn't that commander or that black-clothed old man I killed have a heaven-defying divine artifact? Madman frowned. This problem. Qin Feiyong looked at Yun Ziyang. Although there was some relevant information in Luo Tianshan's memories, Luo Tianshan was just a small figure after all. What he knew was only hearsay, so he couldn't take it too seriously. Moreover, he didn't read Luo Tianshan's complete memories at that time, so he only had a rough understanding of the basic situation of the Sky Cloud realm. Why are you looking at me? Yun Ziyang put away the black dagger and said suspiciously. Qin Feiyong said with a smile, We're waiting for you to explain it to us. Many people know about this, but you don't. I'm curious. Are you people of the Sky Cloud realm? Yun Ziyang was suspicious. Qin Feiyong and Madman's hearts trembled. Qin Feiyong said with a half-joking smile, Then, Brother Yun, just treat us as if we're not from the Sky Cloud realm. Yun Ziyang was stunned and asked curiously, Then where are you from? Did you jump out of a stone? You're the one who jumped out of a stone. Madman rolled his eyes. Haha, Yun Ziyang laughed and said, It's not that simple to bestow divine artifact with the power of law. What do you mean? Madman was curious. Yun Ziang said, "It's not enough to just comprehend one type of law. It also requires a very strong cultivation." How strong? Madman was suspicious. Yun Ziang said, "Great perfection, sovereign realm." What? Madman was shocked. If comprehending one type of law can bestow divine artifact with the power of law, then wouldn't the heaven-defying divine artifact be worthless? So, it's not that simple. The power of law and the cultivation of great perfection, sovereign realm. These two conditions are indispensable. Yun Ziang smiled. "I see." Madman muttered and turned to Qin Feiyang and smiled bitterly. "It seems that we were just guessing before." Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. Luo Tianshan's memories also said so. Indeed, in the past, there wasn't even a half-step sovereign in the ancient realm. For example, divine artifacts like the Sunset Divine Bow were only heaven-defying divine artifacts. They probably didn't know much about sovereign realm experts. Therefore, they could only imagine everything that had happened. They thought that after comprehending one type of law, they could bestow the power of law to a divine artifact and let it evolve into a heaven-defying divine artifact. But in reality, this wasn't the case. Even Revered Dragon probably didn't know about this. Even if she knew about it from Ice Dragon, she wouldn't tell others the truth. After all, in the ancient realm, sovereign realm existences were legends. Indeed, it was true to the old saying. Only when you truly came into contact with it would you know the hidden truth. However, although half-step sovereigns can't bestow the power of law, their strength is comparable to ordinary heaven-defying divine artifacts. Even some heaven-defying divine artifacts might not be a match for them. That's why I took you and fled. Firstly, I wasn't confident. Secondly, I didn't want to bring disaster to Wind City and those innocent people. Yun Ziang smiled. Qin Feiyang and Madman nodded. This was the truth. If they really fought in Wind City, the entire city would probably be affected. Then the Demon Palace, Blood Palace, Sky Palace, and Divine Palace should have peak sovereign realm experts, right? Then the four superpowers should have an uncountable number of heaven-defying divine artifacts, right? Madman asked suspiciously. Yun Ziang nodded and smiled. Of course, the four superpowers have a lot of heaven-defying divine artifacts, but you'll have to ask them to know how many they have. Madman asked suspiciously, "Then tell me, how can a heaven-defying divine artifact evolve into a sovereign weapon?" Qin Feiyang was also stunned. This wasn't in Luo Tianshan's memories at all, because he wasn't qualified to come into contact with these things. Evolve into a sovereign weapon? Yun Ziang was slightly taken aback and shook his head. "How would I know about this? But I've heard some rumors." "It's fine, tell me," Madman said. In his and Qin Feiyang's understanding, only after fusing with a world could a sovereign weapon evolve into a sovereign weapon. Just like the ancient castle fusing with the Black Tortoise world. After the ancient castle fused with the Black Tortoise world, it quickly evolved into a sovereign weapon. This was something that could be confirmed, because they saw it with their own eyes. But they didn't know if there was any other way to evolve a divine artifact into a sovereign weapon other than fusing with a world. Yun Ziang pondered for a while and smiled. There are rumors that a divine artifact can quickly evolve into a sovereign weapon after fusing with a world, but this is almost impossible. Why? Madman was stunned. Why else? Think about it. Other than the creator of this world, who else can own a world? Yun Ziang said. That's not necessarily true. The madman smiled meaningfully. The person standing next to him had an independent world. Hearing this, Yun Ziang looked at Madman in surprise. What I want to say is that there are too many unbelievable things in this world. Nothing can be absolute. Maybe someone will be lucky enough to obtain a world. Madman smiled. Then this luck is heaven-defying. Yun Ziang smiled. Madman asked, then, other than fusing with a world, is there any other way? I heard there is. Yun Ziang nodded. What way? Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other and looked at Yun Ziang expectantly. Yun Ziang said, seize the fortune of heaven and earth and absorb the world's origin energy. Qin Feiyang and Madman were stunned. That was possible? But why did Little Naughty and the Sunset Divine Bow say that absorbing origin energy can only make the heaven-defying divine weapon a little stronger and can't evolve into a dominator divine weapon? Could it be that they didn't tell the truth? Or even they didn't know and just guessed it out of thin air? It is said that this origin energy is everywhere. For example, the essence energy of heaven and earth, battle chi, law force, and divine force are all formed from the origin energy. The origin energy is also the strongest energy in the world. The law force is very strong, but the origin energy is many times more terrifying than the law force. So, it is said that as long as a heaven-defying divine weapon is endowed with the law force, it can evolve into a dominator divine weapon. Remember, it's possible, not absolute, and the evolution process is also very slow. Tens of billions of years, or even hundreds of billions of years, it might not succeed. Of course, if you can directly absorb the origin energy, the evolution speed will be much faster and the success rate will be higher. Yun Ziang said. Madman nodded in realization and said, "Just now, I heard you say ordinary heaven-defying divine weapons. Could it be that these heaven-defying divine weapons also have grades?" Yun Ziang was stunned. "You don't even know this? Can't this old man come from the countryside?" Madman joked. Okay. Yun Ziang nodded helplessly. Shouldn't he have the attitude of asking for advice? His tone sounded as if he owed him something. Chapter 30:21. Don't mind him. This senior brother of mine is like that. If he's polite to you, he won't treat you as a friend. Qin Feiyang smiled. Yun Ziang shook his head and smiled. There are indeed grades for heaven-defying divine artifacts. They are elementary, intermediate, advanced, pinnacle, legendary, and supreme. There are 6 more grades. Madman was surprised. And the difference is the cultivation level. Elementary heaven-defying divine artifacts correspond to half-step dominators. Intermediate heaven-defying divine artifacts correspond to beginner dominators. Advanced heaven-defying divine artifacts correspond to beginner dominators. Pinnacle heaven-defying divine artifacts correspond to great mastery dominators. The legendary and paragon rank heaven-defying divine artifacts correspond to the paragon and paragon sovereign realm. As for dominator divine artifacts, although they have the word dominators, they have already surpassed dominators. In the entire sky cloud realm, they can be counted on one hand. Each of them has the ability to destroy heaven and earth. Yun Ziang smiled. Madman heard this and transmitted his voice to Qin Feiyang. Then wouldn't the Sunset Divine Bow and other heaven-defying divine artifacts have already evolved into advanced heaven-defying divine artifacts? And Qin Feiyang nodded and glanced at Yun Ziang from the corner of his eyes. He sent a voice transmission to Madman. Do you think this person said these things based on hearsay, or is it true? What do you mean? Madman was suspicious. If it's hearsay, then it's nothing. But if what he said is true, then his identity isn't simple. After all, this information is basically secret. Without a certain identity and status, it's impossible to come in contact with it. Qin Feiyang secretly said. Makes sense. Madman secretly responded and then said, but looking at his appearance, it doesn't seem like he's deliberately approaching us. That's why I can't see through him. Just in case, it's better to take precautions in the future. Qin Feiyang warned. We'll part ways with them later. What's there to be afraid of? Madman had a completely indifferent attitude. However, this was indeed the case. As long as they went their separate ways, Yun Ziang would not have a chance even if he had a purpose. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed as he looked at Yun Ziang and said, Brother Yun, I have another question that I would like to consult you about. Yun Ziang pointed at Qin Feiyang and looked at Madman. Brother Madman, do you see that? This is the attitude of asking for advice. Madman ignored him. Yun Ziang shook his head and smiled bitterly. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Tell me. Qin Feiyang asked, if the heaven-defying divine artifact needs to be imbued with the power of law, then what about the heaven-defying divine art? Oh, this. Yun Ziang pondered for a moment and said, I've heard of it before. It seems to be the fusion of the power of laws. Fusion? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. Yes, divine weapons are bestowed, while divine arts are fused. There is a qualitative difference between these two. In other words, the heaven-defying divine art is to fuse the power of law into the moves of the divine art. In this regard, there is no cultivation limit. As long as you completely comprehend a kind of power of law, it will be fine. But it's not that simple. This requires an astonishing comprehension ability, and of course, it will also take a long time. But there is another possibility. If you are lucky and accidentally enter a state of epiphany, then you will immediately be able to master it. Moreover, the heaven-defying divine art is also divided into ranks, just like the heaven-defying divine artifact. Yuan Ziang said, "Is that so?" Qin Feiyang suddenly understood, and an imperceptible crystal light flashed in his eyes. Although Yuan Ziang repeatedly mentioned that it was only hearsay, when he said it, his tone was very confident. This meant that most of what Yuan Ziang said was true. In this way, Yuan Ziang's identity was naturally not simple. "All right then, let's part here." The madman looked at Yuan Ziang and the woman and said, Yuan Ziang and the woman were stunned. "Why are you looking at me like that?" The madman looked at the two in confusion. "Brother madman, we have gone through thick and thin together. Are you going to abandon us just like that?" Yuan Ziang looked at the madman with a bitter expression. The madman's mouth twitched and he asked, "Then what do you mean by this? Let's not talk about anything else, but at least we have to help this lady solve her problem." Yuan Ziang pointed at the woman beside him. "I'm fine. I've already caused you a lot of trouble, and I'm sorry to trouble you again. At most, I'll leave Tianfeng City and go to another city to make a living." The woman quickly waved her hand and smiled. Although the Tianfeng City Lord lives in a remote corner, as a half-step sovereign realm expert, he definitely has friends in other cities. If he finds out, will he let you go? Yuan Ziang said. The woman hesitated. Yuan Ziang smiled. "So this matter has to be solved from the root." The madman said, "Then we can only kill the Tianfeng City Lord." "That's right." Yuan Ziang nodded. "We can't do that." The madman hurriedly shook his head. "You haven't even tried. How do you know you can't do it?" Yuan Ziang was speechless. "Is there a need to try? The Tianfeng City Lord is a half-step sovereign. Even someone like you who has a heaven-defying divine artifact doesn't have the confidence to kill him, let alone us." The madman curled his lips and suddenly asked, "What grade is your heaven-defying divine artifact?" "Low grade, the most ordinary grade," Yuan Ziang said. "Then there's the problem. If you're mid-grade or high grade, we can try," the madman said. "But," Yuan Ziang frowned. "Stop." The madman raised his hand to stop her. "Fate ends here. We'll meet again." Then, she pulled Qin Feiyang and left like a bolt of lightning. Yuan Ziang was stunned and couldn't come back to his senses for a long time. The woman smiled. "Big brother Yuan, it's fine. I'm alone. I can go anywhere. There's no need to risk your life for me." "How can I do that? I'm a man. How can I leave a woman like you?" Yuan Ziang shook his head. The woman hesitated and bowed. "Then I'll thank Big Brother Yuan. No need to be so polite. Since we've met, it means we're fated. It's not about helping each other. It's about taking care of each other." Yuan Ziang smiled faintly. He then looked in the direction Qin Feiyang and the other man had disappeared. He shook his head and said, "I really misjudged them this time. I originally thought that they were two decent people, but I didn't expect. They weren't wrong. After all, they had to face the city governor of Skywind City, so it's understandable. Not to mention that we've only met by chance, and there's no relationship between us. It's already very generous of them to help me once in Heavenly Joy Pavilion." The woman smiled. Yuan Ziang shook his head and said, "Now that you've said that, it makes me seem narrow-minded. I didn't mean that. Big brother Yuan, please don't misunderstand." The woman hurriedly waved her hand. "I'm just joking." Yuan Ziang grinned and pondered deeply for a moment before he said, "I'm quite familiar with Ocean of Cloud City. Why don't I take you there?" Ocean of Cloud City. The woman was instantly shocked. That's one of the largest cities in the eastern continent. I heard that the city governor of Ocean of Cloud City is even a terrifying existence at the perfect sovereign realm. No matter how strong the city governor is, it has nothing to do with us. We're there to make a living. Yun Ziang smiled. That makes sense. The woman nodded and pondered deeply for a moment before she said, Then, all right, I'll be troubling Big Brother Yun in the future. It's fine. Yun Ziang waved his hand and activated a teleportation altar to leave. At the same time, on the other side, Madman and Qin Feiyang stood at the peak of a mountain and gazed towards Skywind City. Qin Feiyang frowned. Senior brother Madman, isn't it a little inappropriate for us to do this? What's inappropriate? We're not familiar with them. Besides that, Yun Ziang really makes me feel uncomfortable. It feels like I'm being targeted by a venomous snake when I stand by his side. Madman shook his head. You feel the same way as well? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Do you feel the same way? Madman was stunned. Yes. I sensed a dangerous aura from him when we were at Heavenly Delight Pavilion. Qin Feiyang nodded. Madman said, Then it's definitely true. We have to stay away from him. What's next? Qin Feiyang asked. Next, Madman laughed and said, Who are we? Those two are madmen. If they say it, they must do it. No, I'm not a madman. Qin Feiyang quickly waved his hand. What's the difference between you and a madman like me? Madman rolled his eyes. Qin Feiyang smiled. Let's go. Kill our way to the Su family and rob their treasury. Madman waved his hand and roared in high spirits. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. It seemed that the fate of the Su family was destined. By the way, do you know where the Su family is? Madman asked. I know. It's in Luo Tianshan's memory. Qin Feiyang nodded. Then let's kill our way there. Madman chuckled. The Su family. This luxurious mansion was located in the center of the eastern part of Skywind City. Inside the mansion, the palace was majestic and grand. It could be said that, whether it was the scale or luxury of the Su family, it was not inferior to the imperial palace. In a certain hall, Bastard, I really regret giving birth to you. If I knew you were so useless, I would have strangled you to death. The Su family's patriarch sat on the throne above and roared angrily. Below, young Master Su knelt on the ground, trembling. There were many maids and guards outside the door. Looking at the embarrassed young Master Su, not only did they not have the slightest sympathy, but they all had a face of ridicule. Even the servants had such an attitude. It could be seen that this young Master Su was not welcomed in the Su family. The Su family's patriarch said gloomily, Tell me the truth. Did you really just go to thank them? Yes. Young Master Su nodded. Even if it's to thank them, it's absolutely not allowed. At this time, a graceful and luxurious woman walked in and looked at young Master Su with eyes full of coldness. Madam, why are you here? The Su family's patriarch greeted her. Greetings, Auntie. Young Master Su respectfully bowed. Don't call me Annie. Look at yourself. Are you worthy of being my son? The woman's face was full of contempt. Hearing such sarcastic and insulting words, young Master Su's hands could not help but retract into his sleeves and tightly clenched together. Chapter 30:22. What's wrong? Looking at you, you seem to be very dissatisfied with me? The woman looked at young Master Su coldly. I don't dare. Young Master Su quickly lowered his head. Useless thing. The woman snorted coldly and looked at the Su family head. Husband, although the other party didn't come to us for the soul stone this time. Of course, they didn't dare to come to us for it. But this matter has seriously affected our Su family's reputation. Hearing this, young Master Su's eyes immediately sank. Based on his understanding of this woman, she would definitely take the opportunity to make things difficult for him. And this time, she might even kill him. Madam, what do you mean? The Su family head looked at the woman suspiciously. Expel him from the Su family. Only by severing ties with him, the city lord mansion won't make things difficult for us in the future, the woman said. What? Young Master Su's eyes trembled. This woman is too vicious. He quickly looked at the Su family head. Hearing this, The Su family head also looked at young Master Su with a trace of hesitation in his eyes. Young Master Su shouted, "Father, I'm not adopted. I'm your biological son." "Shut up." The woman suddenly shouted coldly, "If you're really a member of our Su family, you won't cause us so much trouble, and I'm even thinking." Speaking of this, the woman's eyes were filled with coldness. "What are you thinking?" The Su family had asked. "Husband, I think he might have deliberately gone to Tianyue building to look for those two people." The woman said. "Deliberately?" The Su family head was taken aback.
Yes.
He deliberately went to look for those two people to make everyone think that our Su family is related to them. In this way, our Su family will bear the crime of being an accomplice, and the City Lord Mansion will naturally not let us go. The woman said. "No, I really didn't. I just want to thank them."
Father.
"If I have half a lie, may the heavens strike me 5 times and I'll die a horrible death." Young Master Su hurriedly looked at the Su family head and shouted. He didn't think of this at all. He went to Tianyue building to look for Qin Feiyong and Madman purely out of gratitude. Although his talent wasn't good and he was a waste in the eyes of others, he still knew how to repay kindness. If you don't even know the basic concept of gratitude, then do you still deserve to be a human? However, the Su family did not listen to his explanation at all. Their eyes were gloomy to the extreme. He's already so scheming at such a young age. What will happen when he grows up? Husband, we can't let him off so easily this time. We must chase him out of the Su family. After all, you know the City Lord's personality. He is suspicious and vicious. Although you were there at the time and made your stand clear, he might not believe you. Even if he believes it, in his heart, he will definitely be estranged from the Su family. This is very disadvantageous to the future development of our Su family, the woman said worriedly. The Su family's patriarch's face sank slightly. He nodded and said, "Madam's words make sense." "Father." Young Master Su looked at his father in disbelief. Although the Su family's patriarch usually beat, scolded, and humiliated him, in his heart, there was still no hatred. Because this person was his father. He had always believed that his father had beaten and scolded him because he expected better from him. But he never thought that his father would actually abandon him this time. "Shut up." The Su family's patriarch shouted angrily. "I didn't do anything? Why? Why?" Young Master Su roared. At this moment, he exploded. The humiliation and anger that had accumulated for countless years could no longer be held back. This was also the first time in his life that he yelled at the Su family's patriarch. He didn't want to be silent anymore. He had been silent for too long. He had almost forgotten that, in fact, he also had dignity. However, his first attempt to argue for what was right was met with a merciless beating in return. The Su family's patriarch immediately slapped him hard in the face. His whole body flew out directly. His face instantly swelled up and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. "You actually dare to yell at me? I think you're a natural rebel. See if I don't beat you to death, you evil beast." The Su family's patriarch stepped forward and punched and kicked without mercy. Young Master Su curled up on the ground, holding his head. While wailing, he shouted, "Kill me, kill me. Anyway, since my mother passed away, I don't want to live anymore. Let me reunite with my mother." "Okay, I'll fulfill your wish." The Su family's patriarch was furious and his attacks became heavier and heavier. Crack. The bones in young Master Su's body began to break. His whole body was dripping with blood. The woman watched from the side gloatingly. After a while, she stepped forward and pulled the Su family's patriarch, saying, "Husband, don't beat him. If you really beat him to death, you will bear the reputation of being a murderer." The Su family's patriarch said angrily, "It's natural for a father to beat his son. Who has the qualifications to talk about it?" "Yes, yes, yes. But we can't shut other people's mouths, right? How about this? You give the order to expel him from the Su family, then cripple his cultivation, tie him up, and personally send him to the City Lord's mansion. This way, the City Lord will be able to see the sincerity of our Su family. At that time, maybe not only will he not pursue the matter, but he will be even friendlier to our Su family than before." The woman laughed. "Cripple his cultivation and send him to the city lord's mansion. Young Master Su's eyes trembled. Was there still a way out? It was obvious that he wanted to kill him. You're so vicious. He struggled to get up. Like an angry beast, he stared at the woman and roared. How dare you scold me? The woman's face suddenly turned cold, and she kicked young Master Su's lower abdomen. Young Master Su immediately flew out of the hall like a meteorite and smashed into the garden in front of the hall. None of the maids and guards outside came forward to help him. He lay in the pit, his body bloody and his whole person incomparably miserable. Why did you do this to me? What did I do wrong? Since you hate me so much, why did you give birth to me in the first place? He stared blankly at the sky, his eyes full of despair and anger. Suddenly, under his almost blurred vision, he saw that two people seemed to have silently appeared in the sky. Who is it? Can you help me? He was already powerless to shout and could only silently say it in his heart. At this time, the Su family's patriarch and the woman also walked out. Looking at young Master Su at this moment, the woman's eyes were full of sneers. Although young Master Su was not liked, he was still a descendant of the Su family and had the Su family's bloodline power. In the future, whether it was the Su family's property or other things, he would more or less have a share. Therefore, she had long wanted to get rid of young Master Su, but she had never found the right opportunity. Of course, the biggest reason was young Master Su's mother. Once, after the Su family's patriarch married young Master Su's mother, she suffered a lot of grievances, so she bore a grudge. Although she was now dead, in her eyes, young Master Su was still a threat. This time, she finally found an opportunity, so she naturally would not be merciful. The woman said, "Husband, it's best to send him to the city lord's mansion now." Okay. The Su family's patriarch nodded and shattered young Master Su's sea of qi with one palm. He shouted, "Pass down my order. From today onwards, Su Yang is no longer a member of the Su family." "Yes." A guard next to him respectfully replied. "What's going on?" In the sky, indeed, two people appeared. And these two people were Qin Feiyang and Madman. When they saw the scene below, both of them were a little stunned. Isn't that the Su family's patriarch and young Master Su? Wait, isn't this matter already over? Why did you expel young Master Su from the Su family? Also, I heard the two of them say that they wanted to send young Master Su to the city lord's mansion. What does that mean? Below, the Su family's patriarch grabbed young Master Su and opened a teleportation altar. "Husband, you must be polite. Although Feng is a disciple of the Demon Palace, our Su family is still in Tianfeng City," the woman reminded. "Don't worry, I still know this." The Su family's patriarch nodded. "Then go quickly and come back quickly." The woman smiled slightly, and the Su family's patriarch nodded and stepped onto the altar. How lively! But at this moment, a faint laugh rang out. Qin Feiyang and Madman slowly descended. The Su family's patriarch raised his head and was shocked. He quickly jumped down from the teleportation altar and shouted, "When did you guys come?" "Not long ago. But you guys seem to be too busy and didn't notice us." Madman smiled mockingly. The surrounding guards also immediately stepped forward and surrounded the two of them. Their eyes flashed coldly. The woman glanced at Qin Feiyang and Madman, then looked at the Su family's patriarch and asked, "Is it them?" And the Su family's patriarch nodded. "You guys have guts. How dare you barge into our Su family so brazenly? Don't you know that the city lord's mansion is looking for you?" The woman shouted with a stern expression. "So what?" Madman chuckled. The Su family's patriarch said in a deep voice, "What are you doing here?" "Nonsense. Of course we're here to collect the debt. Have you prepared the 100 billion soul stones?" Madman said. Courting death. The Su family's patriarch's eyes were filled with killing intent. They actually came to the Su family to ask for the 100 billion soul stones. "Two brothers, save me. I don't want to die, please." At this moment, a weak voice sounded. It was young Master Su. He heard Madman's voice clearly. As if grabbing onto a life-saving straw, he used his last bit of strength to ask Qin Feiyang and Madman for help. Madman looked at young Master Su and shook his head. How pitiful! Save me, young Master Su kept muttering, but his voice could no longer be heard. He really had no strength left and was extremely weak. Qin Feiyang frowned and looked at the Su family's patriarch. He is your son after all. Is it appropriate for you to treat him like this? This is my family's matter. You don't need to worry about it. Get lost immediately. The Su family's patriarch shouted angrily. Sure. Give us the soul stones and we will leave immediately. We won't hinder you from pleasing the city lord. Madman bared his teeth. Good. You guys have guts. The Su family's patriarch was so angry that he laughed and shouted, cripple them and bring them to the city lord's mansion. Chapter 30:23. As soon as the Su family's patriarch finished speaking, a group of guards immediately rushed towards Qin Feiyang and the madman. What a bunch of reckless things! Madman's eyes flashed fiercely, and the blood demon domain instantly opened, enveloping the entire place. Immediately, everyone's cultivation began to plummet. The strength of these guards was not strong to begin with, and each of them was only at the peak ninth heaven realm. The Su family's patriarch's strength was quite strong, at the minor undead realm, but under the blood demon domain, his cultivation directly plummeted to the ninth heaven realm. Everyone's expression suddenly changed. The woman screamed, "Go and inform the people of the city lord mansion." Noisy. Madman stepped forward and directly kicked the woman's lower abdomen. The woman immediately screamed and flew out. Her chi-si shattered on the spot. Madam, the Su family's patriarch hurriedly left the dying young Master Su and ran over. You still have the mood to care about her? Madman laughed and landed in front of the Su family's patriarch and kicked. Ouch! The Su family's patriarch also screamed and flew out. His chi-si also destroyed on the spot. Seeing this scene, the guards and maids all turned ghastly pale. Too strong. Could it be that he dared to kill the people of the city lord mansion? At the same time, Qin Feiyang walked in front of young Master Su and looked at the injuries on his body. He couldn't help but frown, then took out a divine life pill and threw it into young Master Su's mouth. The majestic life energy immediately exploded in young Master Su's body, healing his injuries. After all, this was a divine life pill with 4 dragon-shaped pill chi. After a while, he recovered. Qin Feiyang was puzzled. What's going on? Just because I went to the Tianyue building to look for you. They wanted to kill me, young Master Su said weakly, his face full of resentment. At that time, your father was outside the Tianyue building. Didn't he already state his position in front of everyone? Qin Feiyang frowned. Yes, but this woman is vicious. She had to take the opportunity to get rid of me. If you didn't appear, I would definitely have died in their hands. Young Master Su looked at Master Su and his wife with grief and indignation. The couple was also filled with fear. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded and sighed. I have to say, you are the most pitiful person I have ever met. I am not pitiful. I only hate myself for being useless, for being weak, and for being stupid. I thought that as long as I continued to endure, I would be able to slowly move them, but the reality was not like that. My tolerance has become their capital to become even worse. Young Master Su roared. Qin Feiyang looked deeply at young Master Su and said with a smile, Then do you know where your Su family's treasury is? Treasure vault. The Su family's patriarch and his wife's eyes trembled. They immediately glared at young Master Su with undisguised threats in their eyes. Young Master Su looked at the two of them and saw the threat in their eyes. The anger in his heart grew even stronger. He then looked at Qin Feiyang and nodded, understood. If it was in the past, he would definitely not have answered Qin Feiyang truthfully. But now, for the Su family and the Su family's patriarch, he was already disheartened and no longer had any thoughts. Okay, take me there. When the time comes, I promise to do one thing for you. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. And young Master Su nodded. Unfilial son, unfilial son. The Su family's patriarch suddenly roared. I have already been expelled from the Su family by you. What's the point of saying this? Since it's a break, then don't blame me for being heartless. Young Master Su smiled coldly and looked at Qin Feiyang. The treasury is at the back of the mountain. I will take you there. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded and looked at Madman with a smile. Senior brother, take them with us? This is too troublesome. Just kill them. Madman frowned. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang looked at young Master Su and asked, What do you think? The Su family's patriarch and his wife suddenly looked at young Master Su. They never thought that their life and death would fall into the hands of this evil creature. Young Master Su looked at the two with resentment in his eyes and said, Let them stay first. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. Really troublesome. Madman shook his head. So, under the leadership of young Master Su, the group rushed to the back of the Su family's mountain, and only the Su family's patriarch and his wife were brought along. As for those guards and maids, Madman didn't even have the mood to kill them. Go and inform the city lord's mansion. With the departure of Madman, the blood demon domain also disappeared, and a group of guards immediately roared. Su family's back mountain. This place was bigger than the back mountain of the imperial palace. The mountains were undulating, and the vegetation was lush. But in the mountain, there were no fierce beasts. But at the entrance of the back mountain, there were guards guarding. When they saw Qin Feiyang and the others, the guards guarding the entrance suddenly had a look of surprise. How did the patriarch and his wife fall into such a situation? Patriarch, the guards rushed up. Get lost. Madman shouted coldly, and with a slap, those guards were immediately slapped away and smashed into the ground. So powerful. Young Master Su murmured, then raised his head to look at the back mountain with a trace of deep fear in his eyes. He whispered, Two brothers, you have to be careful. This back mountain is not simple. Not simple? Qin Feiyang and Madman were stunned. Yes. The Su family's elders are all cultivating in the back mountain. Their cultivation is at the imperishable stage. The Su family's ancestor is an imperishable stage expert at the perfection stage, young Master Su said. Perfection stage? Madman was slightly stunned, and his face was full of disdain. Qin Feiyang also smiled slightly, and then stepped straight into the back mountain. Seeing the calm attitude of the two, young Master Su's eyes also had a trace of surprise. What kind of means did these two have to be so fearless? What should we do next? Qin Feiyang looked at young Master Su, who was in a daze, and asked. Young Master Su came back to his senses and hurriedly pointed to the front. Go deeper. We'll see a group of pavilions. Qin Feiyang immediately used the walk word art and rushed deep into the back mountain. In just 10 breaths, a group of pavilions came into sight. The pavilions were located in the mountains, surrounded by green vegetation and streams, like a fairyland. And in those pavilions, Qin Feiyang sensed at least 100 imperishable stage auras. Among them, there was one at the perfection stage. There were 10 auras at the perfection stage. The rest were at the greater success, initial success, and half-step imperishable stage. Madman smiled. You don't say. The Su family's foundation is not simple.
Yes.
Qin Feiyang nodded. A perfection stage imperishable stage expert, a full perfection stage expert, in terms of quality, was stronger than the dragons. However, in the end, it still couldn't compare to the dragons, because the dragons had a total of 2 sovereign divine weapons. 2 sovereign divine weapons. Even the super forces like the Demon Hall and Blood Hall of the Sky Cloud Realm didn't dare to underestimate them. Who is it? When Qin Feiyang and the others entered the sky, the Su family elder who was meditating here immediately sensed their auras. Whoosh! A figure rushed into the sky. It was a middle-aged man with a greater success stage, imperishable stage cultivation. When he saw the Su family head, the woman and young Master Su, the middle-aged man was stunned and frowned. What's the matter with you? It's a long story. Quickly inform the old ancestor that this unfilial son Su Yang has brought these 2 people to rob the Su family's treasury. The Su family head roared. What? The middle-aged man looked at Qin Feiyang and Madman and frowned. Half-step imperishable stage? What kind of joke was this? Half-step imperishable stage dared to rob the Su family's treasury? Whoosh! Before the middle-aged man could speak, figures rushed out from the pavilions below. There were men and women, and all of them were murderous, because they all heard the Sioux family head's voice. Come to rob the Sioux family's treasury? They must be tired of living. However, when they saw the cultivation of Qin Fei Yong and Madman, they were stunned like the middle-aged man. Seeing this, the Sioux family head looked at a white-haired old man and roared, "Old ancestor, don't underestimate them. They are very strong and even dared to kill people from the city lord's mansion." This white-haired old man was the Sioux family's old ancestor. What? They dared to kill people from the city lord's mansion? The group of elders looked at the two in shock. The white-haired old man's eyes were also full of surprise. But Qin Fei Yong didn't pay attention to them. He looked at young Master Su and asked, "Where is the treasury?" Young Master Su swallowed his saliva and said, "It's below the old ancestor's pavilion. I'll take you there." Even though Qin Fei Yong and Madman appeared to be so calm, he was still quite afraid in the face of so many elders. Qin Fei Yong turned to look at Madman and smiled. Then, "Senior brother, I'll leave this place to you? No problem." Madman waved his hand. "Let's go." Qin Fei Yong looked at young Master Su and smiled. Young Master Su nodded and flew down in fear. Qin Fei Yong also left behind the Su family head and the woman and followed behind him. As for those elders, they were completely treated as air. "Brat, you dare." Seeing this, an elder suddenly shouted and rushed towards Qin Fei Yong and young Master Su. Young Master Su suddenly panicked. "Don't be nervous. With my senior brother here, no one can hurt you." Qin Fei Yong smiled and comforted him. "Is that so?" Young Master Su was a little suspicious. Jejia. At the same time, Madman bared his teeth and smiled. The blood demon domain opened again and enveloped the group of elders. The Su family head suddenly changed his expression and shouted, "Don't be enveloped by this barrier." And the group of elders was stunned and looked at the blood demon domain suspiciously. "This barrier can forcibly deprive 5 small realms of cultivation." The Su family head roared, "What? Deprive 5 small realms of cultivation?" The group of elders suddenly changed their expressions. Even the old ancestor of the Su family was the same. However, it was already too late to realize this. The blood demon domain instantly fell, and all their cultivation began to plummet. At the same time, Madman took a step forward, and like a ghost, he arrived behind the elder who was charging towards Qin Fei Yong and Qin Fei Yong. With a palm strike, the elder's sea of qi shattered on the spot with a cracking sound. This power, the elder was shocked and immediately judged the strength of Madman's body and quickly reminded, "Be careful, his body and strength are different from ordinary people." The old ancestor of the Su family roared, "Even so. So what? Kill him." Boom. The group of elders suddenly burst out with a terrifying aura and madly rushed towards Madman. As for the old ancestor of the Su family, with monstrous anger, he rushed towards Qin Fei Yong and young Master Su. His old eyes were filled with strong killing intent. Chapter 30:24. Not good. Seeing the old ancestor of the Su family coming, young Master Su became nervous again. Because in the Su family, the old ancestor of the Su family was a godlike existence, everyone was afraid of him. "It's really nothing, just lead the way." Qin Fei Yong was helpless. This was too cowardly. Just like this, he still wanted to enter the demon palace? Dream on. Although he had never been to the demon palace, he could imagine that it must be a very cruel place. In this kind of place, without some means and courage, it was impossible to survive. Hearing this, young Master Su continued to fly downwards in fear. This was a fear that had accumulated for many years, so no matter what Qin Fei Yong said, he couldn't help but panic. "Old man, do you think I don't exist?" Madman glanced at the old ancestor of the Su family and took a step forward. His aura roared in all directions, and the group of elders who were charging towards him were instantly thrown off their feet. Because these people's cultivation had already plummeted to the 9 heavens realm. With the cultivation of the 9 heavens realm, how could they withstand his aura? Shua. Following closely, Madman took a step towards the old ancestor of the Su family. The old ancestor of the Su family still had a half-step undying realm cultivation. After all, he was at the great perfection undying realm. His speed was not inferior to Madman's, because he also had a supreme-level auxiliary divine art. He also thought that Madman couldn't catch up to him. After all, their cultivation and divine art were the same. But he underestimated Madman's means. Boom. The blood demon technique was activated. Madman's cultivation directly soared to the initial undying realm. Yes, he didn't fully activate the blood demon technique, but only raised it by a small realm. Because the blood demon technique was fully activated, it could raise it by 3 small realms. However, it was enough to raise it by 1 small realm. Shwa. Immediately, his speed soared, and in an instant, he was in front of the old ancestor of the Su family. In the undying realm, the difference between each small realm was like heaven and earth. Although Madman was now 1 small realm higher than the old ancestor of the Su family, his speed was completely crushing. What? The old ancestor of the Su family looked at Madman, who suddenly appeared in front of him with a face of disbelief. Ignoring me and going straight to old Qin. How much do you look down on me? Madman's eyes turned cold as he slapped towards old ancestor Su's head. Old ancestor Su gritted his teeth and punched towards Madman. Originally, he didn't dare to clash head-on with the Madman because the elder had warned them that the Madman's physical body was different from ordinary people. However, he had no other choice. He had to get rid of the Madman before he could stop Qin Feiyang and young Master Su. However, he had overestimated himself. Fist and palm met in an instant. The Madman's monstrous power instantly surged forth with a momentum that could topple mountains and overturn seas. Puff. The old ancestor of the Su family immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. You're courting death. He was unable to restrain his anger. With a loud clang, a giant golden sword appeared and slashed at the Madman. A mere supreme-grade god artifact is not enough. Madman's lips curled up as he grabbed the giant sword and punched towards old ancestor Su's stomach. Ah! Accompanied by a scream, the Su family's old ancestor's sea of chi shattered on the spot. He's too strong. He's my idol. Looking at the invincible lunatic, young Master Su's face was filled with admiration. Meanwhile, somewhere in the void, Elder Hua looked at the Madman's performance with a trace of surprise on his face. Depriving 5 small realms of a terrifying god art, as well as a god art that could increase cultivation. If he didn't have a god artifact and god art, who in the undead realm would be his opponent? In other words, the Madman's strength was enough to dominate the undead realm. What surprised him the most was the Madman's battle awareness. With one look, he knew that he had climbed out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. It seemed that this man was indeed a talent. However, he seemed to be a little bit away from being a genius. Compared to Qin Feiyang, there seemed to be a little bit of a gap. What he didn't know was that what he saw now was just the tip of the iceberg of the Madman. Even the blood demon art was not complete. He also didn't know that the blood demon realm and the blood demon art, these terrifying god arts, were created by the Madman himself. If he knew, then he definitely wouldn't think so. Outside, the Madman was like a demonic god, causing all the elders of the Su family to be in a state of panic. Qin Feiyang and young Master Su went straight into the attic of the Su family's old ancestor. The layout of the room was quite simple. Young Master Su went straight to the center of the hall, looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "The treasure house is below. Then do you know how to open it?" Qin Feiyang asked. "I don't know about this." Young Master Su shook his head. Qin Feiyang scanned the hall. There must be a mechanism in this place, but there was no need to find it now. He summoned the golden scale sword and directly slashed down. The ground immediately cracked open. What kind of god artifact is this, so sharp? Young Master Su was dumbfounded. This ground was unusual. The Su family's old ancestor used divine power to refine it. Even if they were in the peak undead realm, they might not be able to break it. But the sword in this man's hand was as simple as cutting tofu. The golden scale sword did not awaken, nor did it have any aura, so young Master Su did not recognize that this was a god artifact. Qin Feiyang did not explain. He put away the golden scale sword and looked down. A secret room of about 100 feet immediately came into sight. In the stone room, there were no less than 1,000 interspatial rings and even more interspatial bags. Not bad. Qin Feiyang chuckled, waved his hand, and sent all the interspatial rings and interspatial bags to the Black Tortoise world. He said, Big Black Wolf, you guys tidy it up? Okay. Big Black Wolf replied. Now Big Black Wolf, Black Panther, Pai Lupi, and Theta Wong were in charge of the affairs of the Black Tortoise world, so there was no need to look for Fire Lotus for such a small matter. Then, Qin Feiyang turned and walked out. Young Master Su hurriedly followed behind Qin Feiyang. Done? Seeing Qin Feiyang come out, Madman grinned. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. I just took a look. There are still a lot of spirit veins and crystal veins underground. Why don't we take them away? Madman said. Spirit veins, crystal veins. Qin Feiyang murmured as he scanned the ground under his feet. Although there were already a lot of spirit veins and crystal veins in the Black Tortoise world, the Black Tortoise world was growing every day, becoming more and more vast. So in the future, there would be more and more spirit veins and crystal veins. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang released his divine sense and rushed into the ground. Immediately, there was a trace of surprise in his eyes. The spirit veins and crystal veins below were at least rank 5 divine level, and there were a lot of them, about 5 to 600. A mere family in Tianfeng City actually had so many spirit veins and crystal veins? Then as the strongest force in the eastern continent, how many did the Demon Palace have? Qin Feiyang shook his head. Why did he unconsciously think of the Demon Palace? What was he thinking about all day long? Was the Demon Palace someone he could offend? He had to get rid of this thought quickly. He had already offended a blood hall. If he offended the Demon Palace, then there would be no place for them in the Tianyan realm. Qin Feiyang soared into the sky, and his divine power poured into the ground. What is he doing? Could it be? You bastard. My Su family will not let you go. The Su family patriarch and the others looked at Qin Feiyang's actions and immediately roared. But Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear to them. With a wave of his hand, spirit veins and crystal veins quickly appeared from the ground. Then, he sent them all to the Black Tortoise world. Damn it, damn it. The Su family's old ancestor was furious. But since his Qi was destroyed, he could only watch as Qin Feiyang frantically looted. In just a few breaths, the meridians and spirit veins in the back mountain were all looted by Qin Feiyang. At this time, Qin Feiyang just looked at the group of people from the Su family and laughed. You can't blame me for this. It's you who didn't take the 100 billion spirit stones. So it's still our fault? The Su family patriarch roared. Otherwise, it's still my fault. You guys, why do you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit? You have to force us to be serious. This is great. The treasury is gone. The spirit veins and crystal veins are also gone. The next time you encounter something like this, you have to remember. It's wise to give up the small for the big. Qin Feiyang laughed. The Su family patriarch was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. You spat out blood just like that? You're too weak. Madman sneered. Boom. But before he finished speaking, 2 terrifying divine powers descended. Qin Feiyang and the others looked up and saw 2 middle-aged men appear in the sky. City Lord, Commander. Everyone in the Su family suddenly seemed to have seen their savior. At the same time, Madman landed in front of Qin Feiyang, and without any hesitation, he took young Master Su and flew away. City Lord, these people are too arrogant. Not only did they loot our Su family's treasury, but they also took away all our spirit veins and crystal veins. You must make a decision for us. The Su family patriarch roared. The city lord looked at the direction where Qin Feiyang and the other 2 left and asked, Then what's going on with your son? This is an unfilial son. I originally wanted to take him to the city lord's mansion personally to apologize. But this unfilial son actually brought them to loot our treasury. The Su family patriarch said angrily. The city lord said, Did the other person who mastered the law of space and time appear? I didn't see him. But looking at the situation, they should have separated. Otherwise, he would definitely appear now and use the law of space and time to escape. The Su family patriarch said, Without that person, it's easy to deal with. The city lord smiled coldly and took the commander with him as he stepped into the air. I'll follow and take a look. The Su family old ancestor took out a spirit sea pill and threw it into his mouth, then used his divine sense to chase after them. Back to Qin Feiyang. The three of them had already escaped outside the city and entered the mountain, but they didn't relax at all, because the city lord had already caught up. It was too easy for a half-step ruler to catch up with them, and young Master Su was even more panicked. These two people were very strong, but he also saw with his own eyes that they couldn't fight back in front of the city lord in Tianyue building. What should he do? Madman suddenly opened his mouth and laughed. Old Qin, this person is always a disaster. I'm a disaster? Young Master Su was stunned. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the city lord. Madman rolled his eyes at him. Is that so? Young Master Su breathed a sigh of relief. He thought he was talking about him. Chapter 30-25. He is indeed a calamity. Qin Feiyang nodded. If this person wasn't eliminated, there would be no end of trouble. Since that was the case, Qin Feiyang and Crazy looked at each other, a cold light flashing in their eyes. Shua. Immediately after, the two continued to head into the depths of the mountain. A while later, Shua. Suddenly, two figures appeared in front of them, blocking their path. It was the city lord and the commander. One was a half-step ruler, and the other was a perfection undying realm. Not to mention the city lord. Even the commander was a terrifying existence in the ancient world. But in the sky cloud realm, the two were just ordinary people. Let's see how you run this time. The city lord stepped forward, and the pressure of a half-step ruler surged toward Qin Feiyang's group like a flood. Su Yang's eyes trembled, terrified to the extreme. Even a perfection undying realm like the Su family's old ancestor was a godlike existence in his eyes, let alone a half-step ruler like the city lord. Just one pressure was enough to make him fall into the abyss of despair. However, Qin Feiyang and Crazy's expressions didn't change. Do you really think we're afraid of you? Crazy smiled mockingly. The city lord looked suspiciously at the two. My lord, you can tell that they're pretending to be calm from the looks of it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have stood there in the heavenly pleasure building and waited for another youth to save them. The commander sneered. Makes sense. The city lord nodded. Crazy glanced at the commander and laughed. You seem to be very smart? SOSO. I'm just a little smarter than you. The commander's face was full of disdain. In his eyes, Qin Feiyang and Crazy were just two clowns. The one he was truly wary of was Yun Ziang. Not only did he control the laws of space and time, he also had a heaven-defying divine artifact. A heaven-defying divine artifact, even the most ordinary low-level one, was comparable to a half-step ruler, and he was only a perfection undying realm, one step away from a half-step ruler. Although it was only one step, the difference was like heaven and earth. Therefore, in front of Yun Ziang, he had no confidence at all. But now, Yun Ziang was not here. Then the two people in front of him were equivalent to lambs waiting to be slaughtered. They were completely insignificant. Smarter than us? The madman and Qin Feiyang looked at each other, and the playfulness in their eyes deepened. This person really didn't know how to keep a low profile. My lord, take a look. They're still so arrogant even now. They're simply looking down on you. We must torture them properly. Also, didn't they loot the Su clan's treasure vault, spirit vein, and crystal vein? These treasures are all things that we've coveted for a long time. However, due to the fact that the Su clan's first young master is a demon hall disciple, it's not convenient for us to make a move. Isn't this the best opportunity? The commander looked at the city lord and said with a flattering smile. The city lord's eyes lit up. Madman was stunned. You guys are also eyeing the Su family's treasury? This Su family is just relying on the fact that they have someone backing them up. What are they if they don't have that backing? The commander sneered. As the city lord and the commander of Tianfeng City, not only do you not protect the interests of the people below, you even have crooked thoughts about them. Aren't you afraid of being ridiculed by others for doing this? Su Yang shouted angrily. He didn't dare to speak at first, but when he heard this, he couldn't help it. He never thought that the city lord and the commander were such people. As a member of Tianfeng City, he really felt heartbroken. You're just a stray dog. What right do you have to speak? The commander's face was full of disdain. Even if I'm a stray dog, I'm still better than you guys with wild ambitions. No, you guys are just animals in human skin. Su Yang's face was full of disgust. You're courting death. The commander's eyes suddenly surged with killing intent, and a terrifying divine power rushed towards Su Yang. Humph! Qin Feiyang snorted coldly and stepped in front of Su Yang, his eyes flashing with killing intent. Overestimating yourself. The commander's face was full of ridicule. Overestimating myself? Qin Feiyang shook his head and sneered. I'm just joking that you're smart. Do you really think you're smart? The commander's eyes turned cold. If even Yun Xiang's little tricks can make you guys afraid, then you don't have the qualifications to be arrogant in front of us. Because our tricks are more terrifying than Yun Xiang's. Qin Feiyang's words fell, accompanied by a loud clang, and the golden scale sword appeared. The commander originally wanted to ridicule him, saying that he was more terrifying than Yun Xiang. He didn't know his own weight. However, when he saw the sudden appearance of the golden scale sword, his pupils suddenly shrank. This seemed to be, at the same time, the city lord's pupils also shrank slightly. Clang! The golden scale sword instantly recovered, and a terrifying sharpness swept in all directions, and the divine power of the commander was instantly turned into ashes. This is a heaven-defying artifact. The commander's expression changed, and he immediately retreated behind the city lord, his eyes full of shock. This person actually had a heaven-defying artifact. At the same time, the city lord waved his hand, rolled up the commander, and flew away without looking back. City lord, the commander was bewildered. His heaven-defying artifact is even stronger than Yun Xiang's heaven-defying artifact. Yun Xiang's heaven-defying artifact is only a low-level one, but his is a high-level heaven-defying artifact. The city lord said gloomily. He never thought that Qin Feiyang would actually have such a terrifying artifact. What? High-level heaven-defying artifact. The commander turned pale with fright. This level of heaven-defying artifact was extremely rare even in those large cities. Who exactly were they? Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a cold light and shouted, Golden scale sword, cripple them. Clang! The golden scale sword suddenly cut through the sky, and thousands of sword chi erupted, turning into a sword chi frenzy, rushing towards the two of them. Lord, quick! The commander was terrified. The city lord's eyes flashed, and suddenly grabbed the commander and threw him towards the sword chi frenzy. Qin Feiyang and Su Yu were both stunned. The commander himself was also stunned, but he quickly reacted. The city lord was using him as cannon fodder. Surnamed Wang, you piece of shit. I was so loyal to you, but you dare to treat me like this? I won't let you go even if I die. The commander roared, and a destructive aura charged out of his body. Boom! In the next instant, his physical body exploded in the air, and a terrifying aura instantly flooded the surroundings. Not good. Qin Feiyang's pupils constricted, and he immediately brought the madman and Su Yang into the black tortoise world. The self-destruction of an imperishable realm expert, especially one at the peak stage of the imperishable realm, was comparable to a half-step ruler. However, the city lord was not so lucky. Even though he was fast enough, he was still affected by the aftershock of the commander's self-destruction. Pooh! He spat out a mouthful of blood. However, he did not stop and continued to run. Right now, he only hoped that the ripples from the commander's self-destruction could block the golden scale sword for a while. However, the golden scale sword was a high-grade divine artifact, comparable to an early-stage ruler. How could the self-destruction of a mere peak-stage imperishable realm expert block it? Clang! Accompanied by a sword cry, the golden scale sword easily shattered the ripples from the commander's self-destruction, and then like a flash of light, it pierced through the city lord's lower abdomen. Immediately, the city lord wailed as his sea of vital energy shattered, and his cultivation dissipated. The golden scale sword was placed in front of him, emitting a sharp aura that terrified the city lord. Don't kill me! Swish! At this moment, when Qin Feiyang appeared, He grabbed the city lord and disappeared without a trace with the golden scale sword. What's going on? This seems to be the commander's aura. Could it be that he self-destructed? In the distance, the Sioux family's old ancestor stopped in the air, looking at the collapsed mountains and rivers in front of him in shock. He originally wanted to follow and see if there was a chance to kill Qin Feiyang and Suyu with his own hands. But he didn't expect that before he even got close, a terrifying destructive wave would erupt in front of him. The owner of this wave was a commander, which made him even more shocked. The commander actually self-destructed? What was going on? He didn't dare to get closer, nor could he get closer, because the fluctuations from the commander's self-destruction were enough to shatter his bones. Black Tortoise Realm. Where is this? The city lord scanned his surroundings, his eyes full of surprise. Su Yang was the same. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Welcome to my space divine object. Space divine object? This is too big. The two of them were shocked. Even a half-step dominator couldn't see the end. And the essence chi energy and soul vein energy here were not much worse than outside. Do you want to die or live? Qin Feiyang looked at the city lord and asked with a smile. The city lord's body stiffened, and only then did he remember his situation. Now that his sea of vital energy was destroyed and he was captured in this space divine object, unless he mastered the laws of space and time, he couldn't escape even if he went to heaven or earth. No, I still have divine soul. A trace of killing intent appeared in the city lord's heart. With his half-step dominator divine soul, he could easily kill the two in front of him. Clang. But just as this thought appeared in his mind, the golden scale sword let out a sword hum and pointed at his forehead. The tip of the sword was almost touching his forehead. That terrifying sharpness caused his divine soul to immediately surge with an inescapable fear. Do you know what will happen if you play tricks in front of me? Qin Feiyang looked at him mockingly. I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare. The city lord hurriedly waved his hand. Fine. Seeing that your cultivation isn't bad, I'll reluctantly take you in as my subordinate. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Reluctantly? The city lord couldn't help but go crazy. He was at least a half-step dominator. Was there a need to force him so much? Don't resist, otherwise, if the golden scale sword gets angry, even I won't be able to control it. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and a slave seal appeared. This is... The city lord's eyes flashed. He didn't need to think to know that this was a kind of control secret technique. Qin Feiyang's eyes suddenly turned cold, and he shouted, Golden scale sword, kill him for me. Clang. The tip of the golden scale sword instantly sank into the city lord's forehead, and blood spurted out. Don't kill me. The city lord roared in horror. Stop. Qin Feiyang stretched out his hand. The golden scale sword immediately stopped. At this moment, the tip of the sword was only a paper away from the city lord's sea of consciousness. Are you obedient now? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. Yes, yes, yes. The city lord nodded repeatedly, terrified. The blade was on his neck. How could he dare to not be obedient? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, and with a wave of his hand, the slave seal immediately turned into a stream of light and sank into the city lord's head. Chapter 30:26. During the process of being controlled, the city lord wanted to resist again and again, but under the threat of the golden scale sword, he finally gave up on this thought. The control was successfully completed. Qin Feiyang secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He looked at the golden scale sword and smiled. Go. Swoosh. The golden scale sword instantly turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the sky. As long as the slave seal was successfully controlled, no matter how strong the other party was, he was not afraid. Introduce yourself. Qin Feiyang looked at the city lord and said indifferently. This subordinate is Wang Hui, half-step sovereign realm, Tianfeng city lord, and I have a son, Wang Feng. At this moment, the city lord also appeared extremely respectful. Wang Hui. Qin Feiyang muttered and asked, What law do you grasp? Metal law. Wang Hui replied, Just this one? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. What else? Wang Hui asked. To be able to comprehend a law and reach the perfection realm, this was already very good, okay? Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. Then after breaking through to half-step sovereign realm, how do you cultivate? Madman couldn't help but be curious when he heard this. Wang Hui looked at the two of them suspiciously and said, "You guys even have high-grade heaven-defying divine artifacts? Don't you know this?" In his opinion, since the two of them had high-grade heaven-defying divine artifacts, their family backgrounds were definitely not simple. But why did it seem like they were two noobs now? Madman said angrily. "I told you to speak. Why are you talking so much nonsense?" Okay, okay, okay. Wang Hui hurriedly nodded and said, after stepping into half-step sovereign realm, "If you want to break through again, you must comprehend another law." Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other. They actually needed to comprehend another law? Qin Feiyang looked at Wang Hui and said, "Can we understand that after breaking through to half-step sovereign realm, you need to comprehend another law every time you break through a small realm?" "Yes. For example, me. Now that I have grasped the metal law, if I want to break through to initial sovereign realm, I have to comprehend another law. And I have to completely comprehend it." Wang Hui nodded. "Doesn't that mean that a newly ascended ruler can control two types of law energies?" Madman frowned. "Yes. In any case, after becoming a half-step ruler, every step of cultivation is related to the power of laws. For example, the perfect sovereigns of our sky cloud realm are supreme existences that have grasped 6 types of laws. Apart from sovereign weapons, no one is a match for them," Wang Hui said with a look of admiration. "I see." Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other. Who would have thought that he would have to continue comprehending the laws after reaching the sovereign realm in order to achieve a breakthrough? Madman asked, "What if you can't comprehend other laws?" "If you can't comprehend any other laws, your cultivation will forever remain at the half-step ruler level. Just like me, you can only stay in a small place like Wind City and be a small city lord." Wang Hui shook his head. "That's not right. Even a half-step ruler should be considered very strong in the Sky Cloud realm." Madman was suspicious. "It's all right." Wang Hui hesitated for a moment before saying, "If that's the case, then why are you staying in Wind City as the city lord? I think that with your strength, you should be able to enter the Demon Palace." Madman looked at him in confusion. Wang Hui shook his head and said, "I don't belong to the Demon Palace, but I belong to another faction." "What faction?" Madman was surprised. There were other super factions in the Eastern continent? Qin Feiyang suddenly said, "You should belong to the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, right?" "Rogue Cultivator Alliance?" Madman was stunned. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, "I only know a little about it from Luo Tianshan's memories." "Yes." Wang Hui nodded. Madman asked suspiciously, "What's the Rogue Cultivator Alliance?" In the beginning, the Rogue Cultivator Alliance was formed by a few hidden experts to fight against the Demon Palace, because the Demon Palace was too domineering. But later, as it slowly grew, the alliance became stronger and stronger. Today, although our Rogue Cultivator Alliance is still inferior to the Demon Palace, the Demon Palace doesn't dare to look down on us. In short, our Rogue Cultivator Alliance is the second super faction in the Eastern continent," Wang Hui said. "So that's how it is." Madman nodded in understanding. "And our Rogue Cultivator Alliance not only controls a lot of resources in the Eastern continent, but we also control the various large cities. Even super large cities like Ocean of Cloud City are the territory of independent cultivators like us. In any case, in the current situation, the Demon Palace and our Rogue Cultivator Alliance don't interfere with each other and live together." Wang Hui smiled proudly. As a member of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, he was very proud. Madman teased, "Are you saying so much to tell us that it's best to let you go immediately, or the Rogue Cultivator Alliance won't let us go?" "I'm not." Wang Hui hurriedly shook his head. But in fact, that was what he meant. He wanted to use the Rogue Cultivator Alliance to threaten Qin Feiyang and Madman. "It's best if you don't. Not to mention your Rogue Cultivator Alliance. We aren't even afraid of the true overlord of the Eastern continent, the Demon Palace." Madman sneered. Wang Hui's gaze trembled. How confident did he have to be to dare to say such lawless words? He wasn't even afraid of the demon palace. Could it be that they were from the blood hall of the western continent, the sky hall of the northern continent, or the god hall of the southern continent? No, no. If they were really from these three overlords, then they definitely wouldn't dare to be so high-profile in the eastern continent, because the demon palace, blood hall, sky hall, and god hall were enemies. If they dared to come to the eastern continent to cause trouble, wouldn't they be courting death? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Then tell us, what exactly are the people from the demon palace? Demon palace? Humph, they're just a bunch of selfish people. Wang Hui snorted coldly. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was curious. Before our rogue cultivator alliance appeared, the demon palace was the only overlord. All the resources were in their hands. Ordinary people like us have to get their permission if we want resources. Now, although the demon palace is still the overlord of the eastern continent, at least the resources can be distributed reasonably, Wang Hui said. Is that so? I feel that it's no different from when the demon palace was the only overlord. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Why? Wang Hui frowned. Although the demon palace gave up a portion of the resources, these resources didn't fall into the hands of ordinary people directly. Instead, they went into the hands of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. In short, the ones who benefited were the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, not ordinary people. The lives of ordinary people are still the same. Qin Feiyang said faintly. I don't agree, because the Rogue Cultivator Alliance is in charge of all the major cities. Our goal is to benefit ordinary people. Wang Hui shook his head. Aren't you embarrassed to say that? Someone like you who even wants to take the Su family's business for yourself has the cheek to say that you're benefiting the people? Su Yang suddenly sneered. Wang Hui looked at Su Yang angrily. He's speaking the truth. Perhaps the Rogue Cultivator Alliance's goal was indeed to benefit the people. However, as you continue to grow stronger, you've long forgotten this original goal. Now, all that's left is ambition, selfishness, and greed. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. Humans were basically like this. After getting something, they would want more. Ambition, desire, they were endless. Heard. Wang Hui smiled awkwardly. Although he didn't want to admit it, the Rogue Cultivator Alliance's style was indeed like that. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and asked, Do you have the Shang-Qing Creation Pill and the Dragon Phoenix Divine Pill? No. Wang Hui shook his head. Madman raised his eyebrows and looked at Wang Hui unkindly. You're the city lord. How could you not have these pills? I really don't. The Dragon Phoenix Divine Pill can only increase the cultivation of the imperishable realm. I'm just a half-step dominator. Why would I need it? As for the Shang-Qing Creation Pill, this pill is also used to open the door to the imperishable realm. It's useless for me to keep it. Wang Hui hurriedly explained. That makes sense. Madman nodded. Wang Hui's eyes flashed and said, The Demon Tower sells these two pills. Why don't you go there and buy them? At the same time, Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly, because he was peeking into Wang Hui's heart. When Wang Hui said these words, his inner thoughts were also spied on by him. Through Wang Hui's thoughts, he understood that it was as he had expected. The Shang-Qing Creation Pill was a bait set up by the Demon Tower, and Wang Hui wanted to make use of this to make the Demon Hall target them. Because, if they really went to the Demon Tower to buy the Shang-Qing Creation Pill, it would definitely attract the attention of the Demon Hall. At that time, the people of the Demon Hall would target him, and his life might be in danger. As long as he died, the control of the slavery seal would naturally be removed. This was what Wang Hui was thinking. Qin Feiyang didn't expose him and said indifferently, If I have to do such a small thing personally, then why would I keep you alive? Wang Hui's body trembled when he heard this. 3 days later, I want to see 100 Dragon Phoenix Divine Pills and 100 Shang-Qing Creation Pills. Otherwise, I will directly erase your soul, Qin Feiyang said. So much? Wang Hui immediately panicked. Not to mention the bait, just the price of these 100 Dragon Phoenix Divine Pills and the Shang-Qing Creation Pill was not something he could afford. The reason for that was because every single one of those medicinal pills was priceless. I don't care so much. In any case, I will go to the City Lord's mansion to look for you in 3 days. If I don't see these things, then bear the consequences. Qin Feiyang said indifferently and sent Wang Hui out. Bastard, just you wait. If I don't kill you, I won't be called Wang Hui. Wang Hui stood in the void outside, killing intent flashing in the depths of his eyes. Then, with a gloomy face, he flew towards Tianfeng City. You want to kill me? All right, then let's see who will kill who in the end. Qin Feiyang sneered. Hearing this, Frenzy looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Who wants to kill you? Who else can it be? It's that Wang Hui. Qin Feiyang shook his head. He still has such thoughts? Frenzy was stunned. Of course. He's not honest at all. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. Then you can't be careless. After all, he is from the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Frenzy said, Don't worry. I will always peek into his heart. I want to see what kind of tricks he can play. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. You like to be smart, right? Then I will play with you. Chapter 30:27. Su Yang, who was at the side, looked at Qin Feiyang and Li Qie suspiciously the entire time. How did they know what Wang Hui was thinking? Madman glanced at Su Yang and sent a message. What about him? Qin Feiyang was silent for a while before asking Su Yang, What's your name? Su Yang. Su Yang quickly replied. Qin Feiyang asked, What are your plans now? Su Yang lowered his head, not knowing what to do. Madman thought, Seeing how pitiful he is, why don't we let him stay? There are many pitiful people in the world. Plus, this isn't a shelter. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. Don't you have any compassion? Is there anyone more pitiful than him? Plus, the black tortoise world is so big. How much space can he take up? Madman was speechless. No means no. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Up to you. Madman waved his hand and prepared to leave. Wait. Suddenly, Su Yang looked up at Madman. What? Madman looked at him suspiciously. Su Yang knelt down in the air and said respectfully, I want to be your disciple. What? Be my disciple? Madman pointed at his nose with a shocked expression. Qin Feiyang was also stunned on the spot. How could he have imagined that this kid would actually make such a decision? Please accept me. Su Yang said sincerely. Wait. Madman quickly waved his hand and said, Let me take a break. Okay. Su Yang looked at Madman nervously. Madman scratched his head as if he was not used to it. He frowned and said, Are you sure you want to be my disciple? Yes. Su Yang nodded. Why? Madman frowned. Because you're strong. Su Yang said. Madman grinned and smiled. That sounds good. Does that mean you agree? Su Yang was pleasantly surprised. Don't. Madman quickly stopped him and said speechlessly, Then why don't you be old Qin's disciple? This, Su Yang looked at Qin Feiyang and seemed to be in a difficult position. Speak your mind, Madman said. Su Yang still did not dare to speak. Speak. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Su Yang gathered his courage and looked at Madman. He's not as strong as you. Ugh. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Madman was also a bit surprised, and then he said, He has a high-grade heaven-defying divine artifact. The heaven-defying divine artifact is just a worldly possession. It doesn't represent one's strength. But you're different. I saw your strength with my own eyes. Besides, didn't he call you senior brother? Then you must be stronger than him. Su Yang said. Qin Feiyang said in astonishment, Wait, I call him senior brother. Should he be stronger than me? What kind of logic was this? Su Yang said, But the ability he displayed is indeed stronger than yours. Qin Feiyang was speechless. But thinking back, it was true that he did not display his strength in front of Su Yang, because the one who attacked was Madman, and he was like a bystander. Ha! Madman suddenly laughed and gave Su Yang a thumbs up. Kid, you have good eyes. Seeing this, Su Yang thought that Madman had agreed and quickly kowtowed. Disciple greets. Stop. Madman's face darkened. This kid was really going with the flow. Su Yang was stunned and looked suspiciously at Madman. Madman rubbed his forehead. First, tell me, why did you want to take me as your master? Didn't I just say it? Because you're strong. I want to stay by your side and let you teach me cultivation. Suyang said. Then you can go find someone else? I'm just a half-step immortal. What right do I have to be your master? Madman frowned. I can't find anyone right now. Suyang smiled. From what you're saying, if you find someone else, you'll immediately change your master. Madman was stunned. No, no, no. A master for a day is a father for life. How could I do such a heartless thing? Let's talk about it later. Although you're only a half-step Undying Realm cultivator, you're capable of instantly killing a complete Undying Realm cultivator, and I'm just a half-step Ninth Heaven Realm, so you definitely have the right. Suyang quickly said, That's true. Madman nodded with a smile. Then how many years have you been cultivating? How many years? Suyang paused and pondered for a bit. I've been cultivating since I was young. It's probably been more than 100,000 years. What's that? You're an antique that's lived for more than 100,000 years? Madman looked at Suyang in shock. Antique? Suyang looked at Madman. Why was he called an antique? Wasn't that normal? Which Ninth Heaven Realm didn't cultivate for tens of thousands or decades? He was already pretty good. No, your talent isn't that good. I'm afraid I can't teach you. You should go find old Qin. The madman shook his head and vanished as soon as he finished speaking. Suyang froze and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. If even senior brother Madman can't teach you, then I definitely can't. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Suyang hurriedly said, I know how to refine pills. 7th grade divine tier pill furnace and 7th grade divine tier pill fire. You can only refine pills with tin veins. Your talent isn't that great. Qin Feiyang said. Suyang lowered his head with a bitter expression. That's right. With his talent, how could others take a liking to him? Qin Feiyang pondered for a bit and smiled. How about this? Don't you want to enter the Demon Palace? I'll give you this chance. Suyang immediately looked up and looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. The Demon Palace has many experts and resources. It's better for you to enter the Demon Palace than follow us. Qin Feiyang smiled and took out a token and handed it to Suyang. It was the identity token that Chu Yun gave him. Suyang took the token and looked at the word demon on it. His pupils constricted as he exclaimed, This is the Demon Palace's token? Qin Feiyang nodded. You're from the Demon Palace? Suyang looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. No. This was given to me by someone from the Demon Palace. This person seems to be quite powerful. Take this token back to Tianfeng City and look for the Tower Master of the Demon Palace. She might really help you. When you go back, remember to hide your identity so that your family won't find out. Qin Feiyang smiled. When Suyang heard this, he lowered his head and looked at the other side of the token. When he saw the word Yun, he couldn't help but be stunned. Yun? What did that mean? That's all I can help you with. The rest is up to you. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he waved his hand and sent Suyang out. Suyang regained his senses and realized that he had already left the spatial divine object. He couldn't help but feel disappointed. If he could really enter the Demon Palace, that would be for the best. However, judging from Qin Feiyang's tone just now, he didn't seem very sure either. If this token was useless at that time, then where should he go? He suddenly realized that there was no place for him in such a large world. With a sigh, he put away the medallion, turned around, and left in a lonely manner. In the evening, Demon Palace. The woman in white was busy in the study room. Dong. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Come in, the woman in white said. The door opened and a staff member brought an ordinary-looking young man in. What's the matter? The woman in white looked at the two of them and asked. The staff member pointed at the young man and said, He said he has something to see you about. The woman in white looked at the young man suspiciously and waved to the staff member with a smile. Then you can go out and do your work? Yes. The staff member nodded in response, then turned around and left, closing the door behind him. Speak. What's the matter? The woman in white smiled. The young man hesitated for a moment, then gritted his teeth, took out a facial restoration pill, and threw it into his mouth. Very soon, a familiar face appeared. Who else could it be but Su Yang? It's you. The woman in white looked at Su Yang in surprise. Shoo. Su Yang hurriedly made a shushing gesture. The Su family was looking for him everywhere. If the Su family knew that he was in the demon palace, they would definitely bring people over. At that time, no one would be able to help him. The woman in white was stunned and shook her head. You still dare to come back? As the owner of the demon palace, he naturally knew what happened to the Su family. Su Yang lowered his head and said, If I told you that I was forced, would you believe me? Those two people who robbed the Su family forced you? The woman in white asked. No, no, no. It's not them, it's the Su family. They didn't treat me as a human at all. They even cut ties with me and wanted to send me to the city lord's mansion. In the end, it was those two people who saved me. Su Yang's face was filled with hatred. So, they are still good people? The woman in white was surprised. I don't know in the eyes of others, but in my eyes, they are good people. The Su family deserved it. Su Yang snorted. The woman in white shook her head and smiled, asking, Then why are you here? Su Yang was a little hesitant. Is it about entering the demon palace? I haven't reported this matter yet, and I believe you should know that even if I report it, you might not be able to enter the demon palace. The woman in white said. Su Yang gritted his teeth and took out the token. Who cared if it worked or not? He would take the risk. Please take a look at this. Su Yang took the token and handed it to the woman in white. The woman in white looked at it suspiciously, and when she saw the token, her pupils immediately shrank. Immediately after, she stood up and grabbed the token. When she saw the word Yun on it, her expression changed. Su Yang was surprised. Why was her reaction so big? How is this possible? The woman in white murmured and raised her head to look at Su Yang, asking, Who gave you this token? It's those two people. Su Yang said. How did they get this token? The woman in white murmured, her face full of surprise. She asked, Where are they now? Before we parted, they were outside the city. But I don't know. Why? Is this token very important? Su Yang looked at the woman in white doubtfully. It's very important, very important. The woman in white nodded and looked at the token for a while, sighing, I'm really blind. I didn't even notice such an important person. Then who are they? Su Yang was even more surprised. I don't know who they are either, but the existence of this token. The woman in white pondered for a while and waved her hand. Go out for a while and close the door. Okay. Su Yang nodded and looked at the token in the woman's hand suspiciously. He turned and walked out. Chapter 30:28. After Su Yang left, the woman in white immediately took out the voice transmission stone. Buzz. A moment later, a shadow appeared. It was a woman in a white dress. She was tall and extremely beautiful. I'm Li Yunxia, the Tower Master of Tianfeng City. Greetings, Miss Yun. The woman in white bowed. What's the matter? Chu Yun sat on a chair and yawned listlessly. Li Yunxia hurriedly said, I'm sorry to disturb your rest. It's okay. If you have something to say it quickly. Chu Yun waved her hand. Li Yunxia took a deep breath and showed the token in her hand. She said respectfully, Miss, please take a look. Chu Yun looked at the token and said indifferently, This is my token. What's wrong? But why is your token in his hands? Li Yunxia was surprised. This is my gift to him. Chu Yun smiled faintly. I see. Li Yunxia nodded in realization. After hesitating for a moment, she asked, May I ask who he is? Didn't he tell you? Chu Yun was suspicious. No. He only came to the Demon Tower once and caused a lot of trouble in Tianfeng City. Li Yunxia shook her head. Is that so? Chu Yun was slightly stunned and said with a smile, In that case, he took out this token to ask you for help? Ask for help? Li Yunxia smiled bitterly. What's with your expression? Chu Yun frowned. To be honest, miss, this Qin Feiyang didn't take out the token at all. Before this, I didn't even know that he was related to you. It was a person called Su Yang who came to me with this token. That's why I wanted to confirm it with you. Li Yunxia said. I see. Chu Yun came to a realization and nodded with a smile. You don't need this treasure. You have quite a backbone. However, just as she finished speaking, she suddenly stood up and frowned. What did you just say? The token is in the hands of a person called Su Yang?
Yes.
Li Yunxia nodded and said, according to Su Yang, it was Qin Fei Yang who gave it to him. Bastard! Chu Yun was furious when she heard this. She actually gave her token to someone else? One had to know that in the Eastern continent, there were countless people who wanted her token, but none of them had the honor to obtain it. Yet, this fellow actually gave it to someone else. Miss, please calm down. Seeing this, Li Yunxia quickly comforted him. Chu Yun suppressed the anger in her heart and asked, is Su Yang very close to him? Nope, I'm sure of that, because the first time he met Su Yang was at my place. Furthermore, the time of their meeting was this morning. There was even a small conflict between them. Li Yunxia said, this is even worse. Chu Yun's face was full of anger. His sleepy state instantly disappeared. If she had given her token to a friend or brother, she could still understand. But to actually give it to someone she had just met for less than a day? Was her command token so cheap in this fellow's eyes? Li Yunxia asked cautiously, Miss, do you want me to find him? What are you looking for? It's better for people like him who don't know what is good for them to die. Chu Yun snorted. Yes, yes, yes. Li Yunxia smiled apologetically. However, anyone with a discerning eye could tell that the young miss was speaking out of anger. But thinking about it, it made sense. With the young miss's identity, there were many people in the entire Eastern continent who wanted to curry favor with her. If it were anyone else, they would probably treat the young miss's token as a family heirloom. But this person actually gave it to someone he had just met for less than a day without cherishing it. How could the young miss not be angry with such a contemptuous attitude? Chu Yun took a deep breath and asked, why did he give it to Su Yang? Li Yunxia said truthfully, this Su Yang has always wanted to enter the Demon Palace, so I reckon that Qin Fei Yang gave him the token to let him take a shortcut. Then this Su Yang's talent should be very good. In Chu Yun's opinion, to be able to make Qin Fei Yang use the token, he must be someone with extraordinary talent. This, Li Yunxia was a little hesitant.
Speak.
Seeing this, Chu Yun felt a little uneasy. Li Yunxia said carefully, then please don't be angry, young miss. This Su Yang's cultivation talent is not very good, and his alchemy talent is also very ordinary. Chu Yun was stunned, and without any suspense, she exploded and roared with her teeth gnashing. This little bastard, I won't let him off. If it was given to a person with good talent, she could reluctantly accept it. After all, it could more or less prove the value of the token. But she never thought that it would actually be a person with ordinary talent. This was simply a waste of God's gift. Li Yunxia smiled bitterly. It was no wonder that the young miss was angry. This Qin Fei Yang was indeed too childish. After a while, Chu Yun calmed down and looked at Li Yunxia. Call that Su Yang over? Okay. Li Yunxia nodded, looked at the door and said, Su Yang, come in. Su Yang pushed open the door and quickly walked to Li Yunxia's side. Then, he looked at Chu Yun with a hint of surprise in his eyes. Li Yunxia said, quickly greet Miss Yun. Su Yang greets Miss Yun. Su Yang hurriedly bowed. Chu Yun looked at Su Yang indifferently and asked, You've been with Qin Fei Yang all this time? Su Yang said truthfully, Ever since I escaped from the Su family, I've been with them. Chu Yun said, Then tell me everything about them. This, Su Yang hesitated for a moment. Cough, cough. Su Yang, this is a big shot in the Devil Palace. Whether or not you can enter the Devil Palace depends on her words. Li Yunxia hurriedly reminded him. Su Yang's heart trembled, but after struggling for a moment, he shook his head and said, I'm sorry, Miss Yun, they have done me a favor. I can't casually reveal their matters. Chu Yun looked at Su Yang in surprise. Although his talent was not good, his character was not bad. Li Yunxia was also rather surprised. She raised her head and looked at Chu Yun, frowning. Su Yang, do you still want to enter the Devil Palace? Yes, but I can't betray my friends. Su Yang's attitude was very firm. A trace of anger appeared in Li Yunxia's eyes. All right. If you don't want to say it, then don't say it. Arrange for him to come to the Devil Palace at any time. With that, Chu Yun's silhouette disappeared. Li Yunxia shook her head and smiled bitterly. She looked at Su Yang and said, "Fortunately, Miss Yun is educated and reasonable. Otherwise, with your attitude, you'll never be able to enter the Devil Palace." However, Su Yang acted as if he did not hear it. He was in an extremely excited state. Go to the Devil Palace at any time? That meant that the other party agreed? He could enter the Devil Palace? That was too simple. "I'm talking to you." Li Yunxia frowned. Su Yang came back to his senses and looked at Li Yunxia suspiciously, asking, "What did you say?" Li Yunxia was extremely helpless. Outside the city, Black Tortoise World, Qin Feiyang stood above the medicine field and looked at the rows of courtyards beside the ancient castle. In the past, everyone basically cultivated in the ancient castle. But gradually, everyone moved out of the house. Not only was it spacious outside, but the environment was also good. They could not squeeze a few people into a cultivation room. So now, everyone had a courtyard, including the devil ancestor, Dong Jingyang, Mu Qing, and Mu Tianyang. After the people of the Dragon Slayer Palace withdrew from Zhengzhou, Qin Batian, Lu Jingyang, and the 54 god generals also lived here. The happiest ones were Qin Batian, Tantai Li, and Qin Rushuang. Living together as a family, they were full of happiness. As for Zhengzhou, it was still empty. According to Big Black Wolf and the others, it was just in case. If there were any emergencies in the future and they needed to transfer people in from outside, they would not have to make any arrangements. They also did not have to worry about outsiders coming in and disturbing the order of the Black Tortoise World. This kind of life is so good. Qin Feiyang sighed. This was the kind of ordinary life he wanted, one that stood aloof from worldly affairs. Unfortunately, it was still very far away. "Young master." Suddenly, there was a shout of joy. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He turned around and saw two middle-aged men rushing over at lightning speed. It was Wang Ming and the five-clawed golden dragon. "What's made you so happy?" Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them curiously. "Guess." Both of them looked extremely excited. Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them suspiciously and asked, "Don't tell me you've both found your other half?" The two of them were stunned. "Isn't that so?" Qin Feiyang laughed. "How is that possible?" Wang Ming was speechless and laughed. "Then I won't keep you in suspense. Little Gold and I have both comprehended the power of laws." "The power of laws?" Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and asked, "Really?" "Yes." The two of them nodded. "That's good." Qin Feiyang was overjoyed. "What kind of power of laws did you comprehend?" "I comprehended the law of force." Little Gold comprehended the law of gold. Wang Ming said, "The law of force?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. He knew about the law of gold, but what the hell was the law of force? "The law of force represents strength. My physical body and strength are already very strong. Now that I've comprehended the law of force, it's like adding wings to a tiger." Wang Ming said excitedly. "I see." Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. Indeed, Wang Ming's strongest points were his physical body and strength. After obtaining the law of force, his physical body and strength would definitely be stronger in the future. The most important thing is that after comprehending the law of force, I found a way to improve my physical body to the heaven-defying level. Wang Ming said, "What is it?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked hurriedly. This was crucial. Once the physical body reached the heaven-defying level, why would he need any heaven-defying divine artifacts? With just a pair of fists, he would be invincible in the world. "There's nothing you can do even if I tell you. Because this can only be done after comprehending the law of force." Wang Ming smiled proudly. "Show off." Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. Wang Ming chuckled and said, "Okay, I won't talk to you anymore. Let's go cultivate and improve our cultivation first." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. The two of them entered a courtyard respectively. "The law of force," Qin Feiyang murmured, and a smile gradually appeared on his face. Everyone's strength was improving. This was a good thing. Only when everyone became stronger would he have the capital to contend with Blood Hall. Chapter 3029. Suddenly, "What are you looking at? Standing here alone?" A pleasant voice sounded. With a charming fragrance, the mermaid princess flew up and landed in front of Qin Feiyang. I'm looking at you. Qin Feiyang hugged the mermaid princess and said with a smile, My dear wife, it's time to go to the bridal chamber. The mermaid princess rolled her eyes and said with a smile, I'll take you to a place. What place? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. You'll know when we get there. The mermaid princess pulled Qin Feiyang and flew to a courtyard below. This courtyard was next to Qin Batian and Lu Zhengyang's courtyard. It used to be the place where Yi Zhong's family lived. The mermaid princess landed in the courtyard with Qin Feiyang. Hundreds of flowers were blooming in the courtyard, and small trees were lush. Inside was a small two-story building with a pavilion next to it. I specially decorated this place, and these flowers and plants were all planted by me. How is it? Do you like it? The mermaid princess asked with a smile. As long as I'm with you, I like it no matter what. Qin Feiyang laughed. Glib tongue. The mermaid princess rolled her eyes at him and led Qin Feiyang into the small building. The coffee table, chairs, floor, and so on inside were all brand new. There were also many potted plants and flowers in the corners. They were full of vitality. Did you decorate this yourself? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Yes. The mermaid princess nodded. Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Master is not here. Why did you decorate it? Are you stupid? The mermaid princess was speechless. She looked around and said with a smile, This will be our home from now on. Our home. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Home? Their home? Home sounded close, but it was actually very far away, especially for someone like him who had been drifting outside all year round. Home was an extravagant hope. Over the years, he had never thought about this problem. Therefore, when he suddenly heard the mermaid princess say that this was their home, he couldn't get used to it. What's wrong? Are you not satisfied? The mermaid princess looked at Qin Feiyang anxiously. No, no, no. Qin Feiyang quickly waved his hand and looked around. Then, he looked at the mermaid princess and said apologetically, I'm sorry. Why are you apologizing? The mermaid princess looked at him suspiciously. We're already married. The first thing I should do is to give you a home, but I never thought of letting you worry about it. I'm not a qualified husband, much less a qualified man. Qin Feiyang blamed himself. He should have been the one to do all this. However, he did not expect this at all. What nonsense are you talking about? You have so many things to do. How can you take care of everything? I'll take care of these small things. The mermaid princess smiled. Thank you. Qin Feiyang held the mermaid princess in his arms. With a wife like this, what more could a husband ask for? Feiyang. At this moment, with a laugh, Qin Batian walked over. When he saw the two of them hugging, his expression suddenly became awkward. He hurriedly said, Sorry to disturb you. You can continue. The mermaid princess blushed. She quickly stared at Qin Feiyang and slapped away Qin Feiyang's evil claws. Then, she smiled and said, Ancestor, you can talk? I'll make tea for you. You're not disturbing? Qin Batian asked. No, no. The mermaid princess quickly shook her head and then ran to the backyard. Qin Batian smiled and walked into the hall. He glanced around and nodded. It's arranged well. It's not bad. You came at the right time. Qin Feiyang's face was filled with displeasure. He was just about to do something to benefit his descendants. He did not expect this ancestor to come halfway. Qin Batian laughed dryly. Qin Feiyang asked Qin Batian to sit at the tea table and asked, What can I do for you? Qin Batian said, I heard that there seems to be some elixir to improve cultivation in the Tianyan realm? Yes. Dragon Phoenix elixir. Qin Feiyang nodded. Is it useful? Qin Batian asked. I don't know. I haven't tried it yet. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Then hurry up and get a few. Let me and Zhengyang try it. If it's really useful, then we can directly step into the peak undead realm. Qin Batian said. That's right. Qin Feiyang slapped his head. The two ancestors were now at the peak undead realm. Once they took the Dragon Phoenix elixir, they would step into the peak. At that time, they would be able to comprehend the power of law. Then, wouldn't they be able to step into the sovereign realm? Now, although they had many heaven-defying divine artifacts and the ancient castle, They did not have a single sovereign realm expert. If the two ancestors stepped into the sovereign realm, their overall strength would soar several times. Qin Batian smiled and said, "And recently, I comprehended another power of law." "What?" Qin Feiyong was stunned. "Comprehended another power of law?" Qin Batian waved his hand, and a wisp of flame rose. "The law of fire." Qin Feiyong was stunned. "Yes. I have to thank your master for this. Back in the Black Tortoise realm, we often chatted together. He mentioned a lot about the profound meaning of the law of fire." Qin Batian smiled slightly. "That's good." Qin Feiyong was overjoyed and said, "Ancestor, to tell you the truth, after stepping into the sovereign realm, if you want to improve, you have to comprehend more power of law." Qin Feiyong explained the situation briefly. "So after reaching the sovereign realm, you have to comprehend the power of law." Qin Batian suddenly understood. Qin Feiyong said, "So the power of law is the most important thing now?" "It's also difficult. To be able to comprehend one power of law is already very rare, and to fully comprehend one, it takes a very long time. Not to mention stepping into the peak sovereign realm, you need 6 types of power of law." Qin Batian shook his head. "It's difficult, but it's up to us. Besides, we have the time array. What are we afraid of?" Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. "That's true." Qin Batian nodded, then suddenly frowned and said, "Speaking of the time array, after you broke through to the half-step invincible realm, why didn't the castle change?" "That's right." Qin Feiyong was stunned. Didn't the castle still have a seal? Logically speaking, when he broke through to the half-step invincible realm, the seal should also be removed. Back then, when he stepped into the 9th heavens realm, the time array of the castle changed to 1 day, 1,000 years. So now, it should be even stronger. But why didn't the castle have any reaction? "I'll go to the castle and ask now." Qin Feiyong immediately got up and ran outside. Qin Batian was stunned, then got up and quickly followed. "Where are you going? Do you still want to drink this tea?" Mermaid Princess came out with a teapot and looked at the two suspiciously. "No." Qin Feiyong replied without looking back. Mermaid Princess was stunned, then put down the teapot and followed out. In front of the castle, Qin Feiyong looked at the castle and said with a smile, "Shadowless, come out and have a chat." "No time." The castle's voice sounded, and it didn't use telepathy. Qin Batian and Mermaid Princess also heard it. "Don't be so cold." Qin Feiyong was helpless. "If you have something to say, just say it. Don't beat around the bush." The castle said. Qin Feiyong smiled embarrassedly and said, "Well, I'm just here to ask about this seal. I knew you wouldn't think of me if there's nothing." The castle looked down on him. Qin Feiyong was speechless. "Look at what you're saying. I used to look for you often, but have you ever talked to me? Or is it my fault?" The castle asked. "No, no, no, it's my fault, my fault." Qin Feiyong hurriedly waved his hand. The castle was silent for a while and said, "This seal can't be unlocked yet." "Why?" Qin Feiyong was suspicious. The castle said, "I need one more person." "Who?" The more Qin Feiyong listened, the more puzzled he became. Besides him, who else had something to do with the castle? "You've seen it before. It's the fire Qilin." The castle said, "Fire Qilin?" Qin Feiyong frowned. "Yes, it's the fire Qilin you met on the Forgotten Continent." The castle replied, "What's going on? Why do I need its help?" Qin Feiyong was puzzled. Although he had always had an inexplicable sense of familiarity with the fire Qilin, they didn't have much interaction with each other. How did it get dragged into this? "You just have to look for it. Or take a drop of its Qilin blood essence and then fuse it with your blood essence. Then you'll be able to unlock this seal." After the castle said that, it fell silent. Qin Feiyong frowned, turned his head to look at Qin Batian and the Mermaid Princess and said, "What the hell is going on? How would we know?" The two were speechless. "Fire Qilin." Qin Feiyong rubbed his forehead. Although the fire Qilin had entered the 3rd floor of the miracle, where it was now, whether it was alive or not, it was still unknown. Where could he go to find it? Besides, now that he knew that the 4th floor was the Sky Cloud realm, it was definitely impossible to go back to the 3rd floor to find it. What he couldn't figure out the most was why it needed the blood of the fire Qilin and his blood to unlock this seal. Feiyong, do you think this fire Qilin didn't die in the third floor and also came to the Sky Cloud realm? Mermaid Princess suddenly asked. Qin Feiyong was slightly stunned and frowned. That's impossible. When it entered the third floor, it didn't even have the cultivation of War God. That's not necessarily true. What if it encountered some fortuitous encounter? Mermaid Princess said. This. Qin Feiyong frowned and looked at the castle. What if the fire Qilin is really dead? You can try. If it's dead, your blood alone can unlock the seal. On the contrary, if you can't unlock the seal alone, then it's still alive. The castle said. Then let's give it a try. Qin Feiyong immediately cut his wrist. It's essence blood, not ordinary blood. The castle reminded. Essence blood? Qin Feiyong was stunned, and then refined a drop of essence blood and dropped it on the ground of the castle. But after a long while, the castle didn't have any reaction. The essence blood also didn't merge with the ground of the castle. Qin Feiyong stared blankly for a moment and frowned. Then this means that it's still alive? And the castle responded. Then where is it now? Qin Feiyong's face was full of surprise. It couldn't really be in the Sky Cloud realm, right? Because if it was still in the Underworld King's Hell, then as the current guardian of the Underworld King's Hell, the Fire Python would definitely be able to find it. But the Fire Python seemed to have said that it didn't find the Fire Qilin and Uncle Beast God. Chapter 30. If they had really entered the Sky Cloud realm, which continent would they be on now? It would be fine if they were on the East continent. But if they were on the West continent, North continent, or South continent, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Qin Batian said with a smile. It depends on fate. We can't rush it. All right. Qin Feiyong nodded. Although they had no clue, at least they had confirmed the Fire Qilin's life and death. The three of them returned to the courtyard. Qin Feiyong didn't hesitate and took out an interspatial ring. It was the interspatial ring he had snatched from the giant scorpion. Ancestor, take a look and see if you can break the seal on it. Qin Feiyong handed the interspatial ring to Qin Batian. Qin Batian took the interspatial ring and observed it for a while. After a while, he shook his head and said, I can't break it. Even you can't break it? Does it require someone at the peak of the undead realm? Qin Feiyong was surprised. There must be something precious hidden in the seal. I'm afraid even someone at the peak of the undead realm might not be able to break it. Qin Batian analyzed. So, it requires someone at the sovereign realm? Qin Feiyong asked. Qin Batian thought for a while and said with a smile, let's try it on those incredible divine weapons. Okay. Qin Feiyong nodded and looked up at the sky. He shouted, Sunset Divine Bow, come here. Whoosh. Immediately, with a sound, the Sunset Divine Bow fell from the sky and landed in front of Qin Feiyong. Come, help me break the seal inside. Qin Feiyong said with a smile. Clang. The Sunset Divine Bow released a wisp of divine power and poured into the interspatial ring. Immediately, there was a crisp cracking sound. Qin Feiyong's eyes lit up, and he immediately dripped his blood to bind it. Qin Batian and the Mermaid Princess were also curious. It actually required the Sunset Divine Bow to unlock the seal. What exactly was inside? After dripping a drop of blood on it, Qin Feiyong sank his divine sense into it. Immediately, Qin Feiyong's eyes revealed a trace of bewilderment. The Cosmos Ring was filled with medicinal herbs, and there were also quite a few pills. Other than that, there was also an alchemy furnace. Qin Feiyong took out a pill. It was a divine life pill with 5 dragon-shaped pill chi, exuding boundless life energy. 5 dragon-shaped core chi. This is even better than the pills you concoct. Qin Batian was shocked. Qin Feiyong nodded and said excitedly, the owner of this Cosmos Ring must be an alchemist. If it was an alchemist, then he might have the pill formulas for the Shangqing Zhao Huadan and the Dragon Phoenix Dan. How so? Qin Batian was suspicious, because it's filled with medicinal herbs and a pill furnace. After Qin Feiyong said, the pill furnace appeared with a thought. The pill furnace was the size of a bucket, with 2 divine dragons engraved on it, shining brightly. The level of this pill furnace must be extraordinary. Qin Beixian's eyes lit up. Qin Feiyang nodded, cut his finger, and dripped a drop of blood on it. Immediately, a stream of information entered his mind. Qin Feiyang also became excited. What's wrong? Qin Batian and the mermaid princess looked at him suspiciously. This cauldron is called the Double Dragon Cauldron. It's a 10th level divine, level pill furnace. Qin Feiyang exclaimed in surprise. What? A 10th level divine, level pill furnace? The two of them looked at each other. This was already a top-level pill furnace. They never expected that in Cosmos Ring that they accidentally obtained would contain such a peerless treasure. 10th level. Qin Feiyang couldn't calm down for a long time. If he had a 10th level divine level pill furnace, why would he need an 8th level one? The Sunset Divine Bao suddenly said, since there's a pill furnace, there should be a pill fire too. Yes, yes, yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and waved his hand, taking out everything in the Cosmos Ring. The medicinal herbs were piled up in the hall like a small hill, emitting a strong medicinal fragrance. Qin Batian scanned the herbs and said in surprise, I've never seen most of these herbs before. Yes, they must be herbs that aren't recorded in the scripture of pills. Qin Feiyang nodded, reached out, grabbed a herb, and looked at it. This was a fruit that was completely red. It was about the size of an infant's fist, and its appearance was very strange. It looked like a small hand, and it emitted a faint fragrance. He had never seen this fruit before. Qin Batian also looked carefully and exclaimed, There are 5 dragon-shaped pill chi. Huh. The mermaid princess suddenly grabbed a pill and looked at it curiously. This pill was golden in color, as if it was cast from gold foil. There were 5 dragon-shaped pill chi around it, like 5 pocket-sized golden dragons. Qin Feiyang also noticed the pill and immediately went up to take a look. He said in surprise, Isn't this the Shangqing creation pill? This is the Shangqing creation pill? When Qin Batian heard this, he looked at the elixir curiously. That's right. I've seen it in the demonic tower. It's exactly the same. Qin Feiyang nodded. There's even a Shangqing creation pill. Who is the owner of this Cosmos Ring? Qin Batian mumbled. Don't worry about that first. Let's find out how many Shangqing creation pills there are. Qin Feiyang urged. The 3 of them immediately rummaged through it. Huh. Qin Batian also suddenly let out a cry of surprise, holding a pill in his hand. Half of this pill was fiery red, and the other half was blood red. It also had 5 dragon-shaped pill chi. Qin Feiyang raised his head to look, and his expression became excited again. What pill is it that made you so excited? The mermaid princess asked with a smile. Qin Feiyang looked carefully for a moment and said with a smile, That's right. This is the Dragon Phoenix Divine Pill. This is the Dragon Phoenix Divine Pill? Qin Batian was surprised. Yes. Although the demonic tower didn't sell it outside, Luo Tianshan had seen this pill before, so after reading his memory, he knew what the Dragon Phoenix Divine Pill looked like. Qin Feiyang nodded. Very soon, Qin Feiyang also found a pill that he had never seen before. From Luo Tianshan's memory, he learned that this was a pill called the Tianyang Spirit Pill, which had the terrifying effect of repairing the soul. It was many times stronger than other pills that could repair the soul. Not long later, the mermaid princess found another pill. This pill was called the Yuanhai Divine Pill, which had the ability to repair the Qi Si. Compared to it, the Linghai pill was on a completely different level. In addition, there were several types of pills that they had never seen before. Finally, Qin Batian found an iron box. This iron box was only the size of an adult's palm and was cold to the touch. When he opened it suspiciously, a terrifying cold current suddenly swept in all directions. A layer of frost quickly formed on the ground. Qin Batian was taken aback as he hurriedly closed the jade box. What is it? Qin Feiyang, the mermaid princess, and the Sunset Bao were also shocked. It seems to be a cluster of pill fire. Qin Batian swallowed his saliva. Even he felt a trace of threat. Pill fire? Qin Feiyang and the mermaid princess looked at each other and immediately went up. Qin Batian took a deep breath and slowly opened the jade box again. A cluster of fist-sized pill fire suddenly entered the sight of the three of them. This alchemy fire was completely different from other alchemy fires. It was as if it was condensed from ice, sparkling and translucent, emitting a terrifying cold current. At first glance, it looked like an exquisite ice sculpture. The mermaid princess murmured, "Isn't this also a level 10 divine pill fire? Even if it's a level 10 divine pill fire, I'd still rather have the nether devil flame." Qin Feiyang smiled and reached out to grab the pill fire. His arm was quickly frozen. He quickly recognized it as its master and signed a blood contract. When the blood contract was completed, he immediately controlled the pill fire and withdrew the cold air. Then, he checked the information that came into his mind. Gradually, a wry smile crept onto his face. "What's wrong?" Qin Batian and the mermaid princess looked at him suspiciously. Qin Feiyang looked at the mermaid princess and said, "You really expected it? It can't be." The mermaid princess was stunned. "Level 10 divine pill fire, ice phoenix flame," Qin Feiyang said. "Not only is there a level 10 divine pill furnace, twin dragon cauldron, there's also a level 10 divine pill fire, ice phoenix flame, TSK TSK TSK. I'm getting more and more curious about this person's identity," Qin Batian exclaimed. "A person who has already fallen, no matter how powerful his identity is, it's useless." Qin Feiyang waved his hand and smiled, nodding in satisfaction. "Not bad. You can leave it to Dan Wangkai." A level 10 divine pill fire was indeed powerful, but compared to the nether devil flame, it didn't seem to have much value. Because the nether devil flame was more malleable. It could continuously evolve by devouring pill fire, which was something that no pill fire could compare to. Continue. The three of them began to search again. About half an hour later, they finally found everything. Shangqing Nature Pill, a total of 7. Dragon Phoenix Divine Pill, a total of 10. As for the other divine pills, there were about 500. Naturally, there were too many medicinal herbs. But unfortunately, these medicinal herbs didn't have roots and couldn't be cultivated again. "Isn't there the first volume of the alchemy scripture?" Qin Batian was suspicious. "That's just a rumor. I really suspect that the alchemy scripture in my hand is the first volume of the alchemy scripture that the Sky Cloud realm is looking for." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "If that's the case, you have to be careful," Qin Batian warned. "I know." Qin Feiyang nodded, looking at the pills and medicinal herbs in front of him, and said regretfully, "It's a pity that there's no recipe for Shangqing Nature Pill and Dragon Phoenix Divine Pill. You shouldn't have any expectations. After all, pill recipes are generally memorized in the mind." Qin Batian smiled. "That's true." Qin Feiyang nodded. If it were him, he wouldn't put the pill recipe in the interspatial ring. Mermaid Princess looked at Qin Batian and said with a smile, "Then, old ancestor, why don't you take this Dragon Phoenix Divine Pill now?" "Okay." Qin Batian nodded, took out 2 Dragon Phoenix Divine Pills, and said with a smile, "I'll go find Jingyang." After saying that, he turned around and left quickly. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said with a smile, "This is the first time I've seen the old ancestor so anxious. There's no other way. There are too many powerhouses in the Sky Cloud realm. There will definitely be pressure." Mermaid Princess smiled. Qin Feiyang smiled, looked at the sunset bow, and said suspiciously, "Are you lying to me?" "Lying to you?" The sunset bow was taken aback. "Yes. Absorbing the origin power can let you evolve into a sovereign divine weapon, but you said it can't. Aren't you lying to me?" Qin Feiyang frowned. "What? It can evolve into a sovereign divine weapon?" The sunset bow was surprised. "It seems that you really don't know. I thought you all are omniscient." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "You think too highly of us. Just like the Sky Cloud realm, we didn't know about it before. Don't say these useless things. Can it really evolve into a sovereign divine weapon?" The sunset bow asked anxiously. "That's what Yun Ziang said, but we don't know whether it will work or not. But it should be possible." Qin Feiyang wasn't sure either, because Yun Ziang also sounded uncertain at that time. "It's good that it's possible. I'll go and tell everyone the good news now." The sunset bow was overjoyed and immediately flew to the sky. "This guy." Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. What's the hurry when there's nothing confirmed? But it was understandable. After all, evolving into a sovereign divine weapon was the dream of every heaven-defying divine weapon. Chapter 30-31. After the sunset bow left, Qin Feiyong called Dan Wangkai over and gave him everything. For Dan Wangkai, alchemy was everything. When he took the Ice Phoenix Flame and Double Dragon Cauldron from Qin Feiyong, he couldn't put them down. If it was in the past, he wouldn't even dare to think about the 10th level divine level alchemy fire and furnace. But now, following Qin Feiyong, he didn't have to do anything to get such alchemy fire and furnace. Although so many years had passed, he still couldn't help but sigh sometimes. His choice back then was really right. If he hadn't chosen to follow Qin Feiyong back then, how could he be who he was now? Moreover, he was also very glad that he chose Qin Feiyong. If it were someone else, would they give such alchemy fire and furnace to their subordinates? Impossible. They would definitely satisfy themselves first. Qin Feiyong was such a person. He treated his friends and subordinates better than himself. If there were any benefits, the first thing he would think of was the people around him. On the contrary, he had been neglected and delayed by himself. Dan Wangkai carefully put it away and looked at Qin Feiyong. Young master, I don't have any other requests now, just the alchemy recipe. Don't worry. Qin Feiyong faintly smiled and exhorted, don't forget to cultivate as well. You must have formidable strength in order to concoct pills. I know. Look at me now. Haven't I already stepped into the half-step invincible realm? And recently, I've been working hard to comprehend the power of law. Don't worry, I won't be a burden to you guys. Dan Wangkai smiled. It's good that you know. Qin Feiyong laughed. Boom. At this moment, in the courtyard next door, two terrifying auras suddenly burst out. Qin Feiyong and the mermaid princess looked at each other and hurriedly ran out to look at the courtyard next door. This was the courtyard where Lu Zhengyang was. Lu Zhengyang lived alone. Of course, even if he was alone, he wouldn't feel lonely. After all, there were so many familiar faces around. In the courtyard, Lu Zhengyang and Qin Batian both sat on the ground with their eyes closed. Their auras surged to the heavens. Whoosh! In the meantime, Qin Rushuang, Tantai Li, Xia Yuan, and the other divine generals also ran out of their courtyards and looked at the two in surprise. Feiyong, what are they doing? Tantai Li was suspicious. I just got some Dragon Phoenix divine pills, and the two old ancestors couldn't wait to consume them. They should be about to break through. Qin Feiyong smiled. I see. Tantai Li and her daughter were enlightened. Xia Yuan asked doubtfully, Your Highness, what is a Dragon Phoenix divine pill? This is a type of pill that can allow an imperishable realm cultivator to break through a small realm. Qin Feiyong smiled. The imperishable stage also has this kind of pill? The 54 divine generals looked at each other in dismay. Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. Immediately, a trace of desire crept onto their faces. Don't worry. I'll prepare it for you. When you break through to the imperishable realm, ask Dan Wangkai for it. Qin Feiyong smiled. Thank you, Your Highness. The 54 divine generals were touched. They didn't expect that His Highness had already considered them. We're family. Don't be so polite. Qin Feiyong smiled. These divine generals had followed the two old ancestors and had been fighting until now. They were no longer in a superior and subordinate relationship with the Qin clan. They were close relatives. Therefore, they had to be treated with the best treatment. In the blink of an eye, boom, a dull sound exploded in Qin Batian and Tantai Li's bodies at the same time. Their auras soared to another level. Imperishable realm. We did it. Qin Rushuang grabbed Tantai Li's hand, her beautiful face full of excitement. Yes. Tantai Li nodded. Qin Feiyong and the others also had joyful smiles on their faces. Perhaps in the eyes of the people of the Sky Cloud realm, the imperishable realm was nothing, but in their eyes, it was undoubtedly a qualitative improvement. It could also be said that they were short-sighted. They would not refute it, because in these years in the ancient realm, the strongest person they had seen was indeed only at the imperishable realm. In their eyes, this realm was already too high to reach. In short, In their hearts, the great circle of the imperishable realm represented a watershed. Stepping into the imperishable realm meant that they were not far from the half-step sovereign realm. Haha, Qin Batian opened his eyes and couldn't help but laugh. Lu Zhengyang was also full of smiles. He got up and restrained his aura, looked at Qin Batian and said, "If Longzuan knows that we caught up with her so quickly, what do you think she'll think?" "It'll be wonderful." Qin Batian smiled. "You're already proud and complacent?" Tantai Li looked at the two and rolled her eyes. "The most important thing is still Feiyang. He's fighting for his life outside all day, while you elders are hiding in the Black Tortoise realm to enjoy life. Don't you feel guilty at all?" Qin Rushuang also glared at the two of them. Qin Batian said, "He's a young man. Isn't this what he should do? You still have a reason?" Tantai Li glared fiercely. "No, no." Qin Batian hurriedly waved his hand and said with a smile, "Madam is right. Let's continue to work hard and strive to step into the sovereign realm as soon as possible. That's more like it." Tantai Li smiled with satisfaction. Qin Feiyang looked at Qin Rushuang mockingly and said, "You seem to be an elder, but I don't see you doing anything." Qin Rushuang's expression stiffened, and she immediately gave Qin Feiyang a knock on the head in annoyance. She was really a professional teardown. Next, everyone gathered together and chatted for a while, then returned to their homes and continued to cultivate in seclusion. Qin Batian and Lu Zhengyang also took the Shangqing Fate Pill to the ancient castle to help open the door of potential. In fact, facing the people of the Sky Cloud realm, they still had a great advantage. This advantage lay in the door of potential. Although the Sky Cloud realm had the Shangqing Fate Pill, there were no other pills to open the door of potential. In other words, there were almost no people who had opened the door of potential in the Sky Cloud realm. But Qin Feiyang and the others were different. They had all opened the door of potential. Whether it was comprehension or cultivation speed, they far surpassed the people of the Sky Cloud realm. As long as they were given enough time, they were confident that they could catch up with the so-called overlords of the Sky Cloud realm, or even surpass them. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. In these 3 days, Qin Feiyang had been staying at home, enjoying the warmth of home, and the matter of benefiting his descendants that he had been worried about was finally satisfied. Early morning, a sun rose slowly, illuminating the entire Sky Cloud realm. Swish! Above the mountain range, 2 people and a wolf appeared. It was Qin Feiyang, Madman, White-Eyed Wolf. Madman frowned and said, "Wolf Cub, why did you come out to join in the fun? How can I miss out on such a good thing?" The White-Eyed Wolf laughed sinisterly. "I think you've been in seclusion for too long and are bored, so you want to come out and play." Madman rolled his eyes. You know it. Why do you have to say it out loud?" The White-Eyed Wolf was speechless. Madman shook his head helplessly and turned to look at Qin Feiyang, asking, "How is Wang Hui preparing?" "Preparing? He is prepared." But what he prepared was not the Shangqing Fate Pill or the Dragon Phoenix Divine Pill, but a killing trap. A cold light flashed in Qin Feiyang's eyes. Killing trap? Madman and the White-Eyed Wolf were taken aback. That's right. On the day he returned to Tianfeng City, he called someone called Zhuo Tiansh. This Zhuo Tiansheng is the deputy city lord of Winxi City. He has the cultivation of a greater success sovereign and also has a high-grade heaven-defying divine artifact. His strength is still very terrifying, Qin Feiyang said. Winxi City? Deputy City Lord? Madman and the White-Eyed Wolf were doubtful. There are countless cities in the eastern continent. Among them, there are 4 cities that are the most famous because they are all super-large cities in the eastern continent. Each of the 4 super-large cities has tens of millions of people. Not to mention the experts, there are as many as the hairs on a cow. Winxi City is one of them. The other 3 cities are Sky Sea City, Cloud Sea City, and East Sea City. Qin Feiyang explained. I see. The man and the wolf nodded in realization. The White-Eyed Wolf said, in other words, this Wang Hui wants to kill us while we go to the City Lord Mansion to ask for pills? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. He is courting death. Madman smiled coldly. I have already lost interest in this Wang Hui. However, we can take this Shuo Tiansheng for our own use. After all, at the greater success sovereign realm, one has already grasped 4 types of law energies. Such a person, as long as he is given the chance, I believe he will definitely reach the perfection sovereign realm. Moreover, with his help, we can rest easy in the eastern continent in the future, Qin Feiyang said. Then this is a bit difficult. After all, he is not a half-step sovereign. The Sunset Divine Bao and the others probably can't do anything to him. We need the ancient castle. But the ancient castle won't make a move unless we encounter a sovereign weapon. The white-eyed wolf was a bit worried. Therefore, this is also the problem I am facing. How can we convince this Shuatianqing? It would be best if we don't make a move. Qin Feiyang rubbed his forehead. He was also a bit troubled. What are you afraid of? When the time comes, just activate the slaughter domain, Madman said. The slaughter domain needs enough blood. Last time, when I activated the slaughter domain in the heavenly cloud ocean, I already used up the western region's blood sea. Now, the blood in the blood sea is only enough for me to activate the second stage. The second stage is far from enough to deal with a greater success sovereign. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Therefore, this method was simply not feasible. Besides, he couldn't activate the slaughter domain every time he encountered a problem. The slaughter domain was his greatest trump card. He had to save it for the crucial moment. Moreover, the blood was freely contributed by the black tortoise world's life forms. He couldn't waste it like this, because once the blood was used up, Pai Lupi and Theta Wong would organize everyone to get more blood. Wasn't this treating the black tortoise world's life forms as blood donation machines? This brother has a good idea. Suddenly, the white-eyed wolf's eyes lit up as he smiled sinisterly. Speak. The two of them looked at the white-eyed wolf. They wouldn't believe in a good idea because the white-eyed wolf wasn't such a benevolent person. However, he definitely had a bad idea. Chapter 30-32. The white-eyed wolf looked around and whispered to Qin Feiyang and Madman. When the two of them heard this, they looked at each other. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and said, I knew you couldn't come up with any good ideas. Isn't this a good idea? The white-eyed wolf was displeased. The madman thought for a bit and laughed. It's a bad idea, but it's not bad. See, even this kid said it's not bad, then it's definitely not bad. The white-eyed wolf smiled proudly. Qin Feiyang looked at the madman and the white-eyed wolf speechlessly and nodded. Okay, although it's not very good, it's the fastest way. Then let's go. The white-eyed wolf smiled. Wong. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and opened a teleportation altar. The two men and the wolf walked up. At the same time, the city lord's mansion. In a large hall, a middle-aged man in black sat above. He was about 1.8 meters tall and had a cold face and sharp eyes. Below him sat a middle-aged man. This man was Wang Hui. Wang Hui looked at the sky outside and then looked at the middle-aged man in black and said respectfully, Lord Zhua, it's about time. We should prepare, right? They're just 2 half-step immortal realm ants. What's there to prepare? As long as they dare to come, I guarantee that they won't be able to return, the middle-aged man in black said with disdain. But I'm worried that they won't come if they find out you're here. Wang Hui said anxiously, Okay, for the sake of the divine artifact in his hand, I'll suffer. The middle-aged man in black was Wang Hui's savior, Zhua Tianqing. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhua Tianqing disappeared from the hall. Wang Hui also retracted his gaze and walked to the main seat above. He looked outside the hall and shouted, Everyone, leave immediately. No matter what happens later, don't come over. There were many guards outside the door. Hearing Wang Hui's words, they all left quickly. After a while, there wasn't even a single ghost in the hall or its surroundings. It was deathly silent. I was just waiting for you guys to come to me. A cold smile flashed across Wang Hui's eyes. Do you think you can do whatever you want just because you control me? Naive. However, as time slowly passed, Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf still did not appear at the city lord's mansion. At the same time, Imolu, in Li Yunxia's study. At this moment, Li Yunxia looked at the two people and the dog suspiciously. Just a moment ago, the two people and the dog had suddenly appeared in her study. Most importantly, He had never seen it before. You are? Li Yunxia came back to her senses and asked suspiciously. Faced with Li Yunxia's questioning, one of the young men smiled and swallowed a face-restoring pill. Soon, he changed into another face. Who else could it be but Qin Feiyang? That was right. They did not go directly to the city lord's mansion. Instead, they changed their appearances and came to the demon tower. Li Yunxia stared blankly for a moment before she smiled. So it's you. You must have some matters to discuss with me, right? Qin Feiyang said. I do have a small matter that I need your help with. Go ahead. Li Yunxia smiled. Qin Feiyang asked, do you know Zhuo Tianxing? Zhuo Tianxing? Li Yunxia was slightly stunned. After pondering for a while, she looked at Qin Feiyang and said, are you talking about the deputy city lord of Windsea City? Yes, that's him. Qin Feiyang nodded. Why are you suddenly asking about him? Li Yunxia looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. It's a private matter. Qin Feiyang smiled vaguely. As the Tower Lord of the Demon Tower, Li Yunxia was naturally a tactful person. She knew what to ask and what not to ask. Seeing that Qin Feiyang was being vague, she did not pursue the matter. She nodded and said, I know this person. I've seen him a few times before. Not only is he the Deputy City Lord of Windsea City, he's also very powerful. Then do you know if there's anyone around him who he particularly cares about? Qin Feiyang was curious. Very concerned, Li Yunxia pondered for a moment, then her eyes suddenly lit up and said with a smile, I remember that he has a daughter. I think her name is Zhuo Shaoxian. He loves her very much. Zhuo Shaoxian, Qin Feiyang muttered. At the same time, the madman and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other, and a hint of a smile flashed across their eyes. Then is this Zhuo Shaoxian strong? Qin Feiyang asked. How strong can a little girl be? She's probably only at the Nine Heavens realm. Li Yunxia smiled faintly. All right then, senior. Please give me the coordinates of the Windsea City. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. You want to go to the Windsea City? Li Yunxia was stunned. I'm not going, they're going. Qin Feiyang pointed at the madman and the white-eyed wolf. Li Yunxia looked at the man and the wolf and frowned. May I ask, do you have any grudges with Zhuo Tianxing? We don't even know where the Windsea City is. How can we have any grudges with him? We just want to take a look at the big city. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. Li Yunxia was speechless. Do you even believe your own words? But she didn't ask any further and told Qin Feiyang the coordinates along the way. Because one teleportation altar couldn't reach the Windsea City, they had to pass through many places. Naturally, they needed the coordinates to pass through these places. Qin Feiyang looked at the madman and the white-eyed wolf and said with a smile, Remember it, come back quickly. I'll wait for you at the city lord's mansion. Don't worry. The madman and the white-eyed wolf laughed and immediately activated an altar and left. Qin Feiyang retracted his gaze and changed his appearance and looked at Li Yunxia with a smile. Thank you, senior. You're welcome. Li Yunxia waved her hand, and then seeing that Qin Feiyang was about to leave, she hurriedly said, I've already told Su Yang to go to the Demon Palace. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and said with a smile, Then it seems that the token is really useful. Hearing this, Li Yunxia couldn't help but smile bitterly. Do you know who the owner of the token is? I know. A woman called Chu Yun. Qin Feiyang nodded and then asked, But is this important? Li Yunxia was speechless for a moment. Was it important? Of course it was important. But looking at Qin Feiyang's indifferent expression, she didn't know how to refute. Then this junior will take his leave first. In addition, I came to ask you about Zhuo Tianxing today. Please don't mention it to anyone else. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he turned around and left the study. What an unfathomable little fellow. Li Yunxia shook her head, retracted her gaze, and continued to busy herself with the matter at hand. Let's talk about Qin Feiyang. After leaving the Demon Tower, he went straight to the City Lord's mansion. The City Lord's mansion covered an area of dozens of miles, with gorgeous palaces, looking incomparably imposing. The mansion was surrounded by a wall that was more than 2 meters high. Through the window bars of the wall, one could clearly see a garden full of flowers, as well as a small stream that was so clear that one could clearly see it. Moreover, the security inside was also extremely awe-inspiring. There was a sentry every 3 steps and a sentry every 7 steps. The lowest cultivation level of those guards was at the great perfection 9 heavens realm. Thinking about it, in the ancient world, the 9th heaven stage was already considered a first-class expert, but in the sky cloud realm, they could only be reduced to a guard. Speaking of which, it was really lamentable. Qin Feiyang observed for a while, then activated the concealment technique and quietly sneaked into the city lord's mansion. What do you think is going on here? The city lord actually sent away all the guards around him, and he also warned them that no matter what happens, they are not allowed to go over. Is that so? Yes, I just met those guards, and they said it themselves. Then that's strange. Do you think it has something to do with the 2 ruthless people who robbed the Su family? Those 2 people are really ruthless. I've been in Tianfeng City for so many years, but this is the first time I've seen someone who dares to come to Tianfeng City openly and rob a family. And it's a big family like the Su family. The most frightening thing is that they actually escaped from the city lord's hands. I think their ability should not be as simple as what we see. The guards of the city lord's mansion were basically discussing this matter in a low voice. Qin Feiyang listened to these discussions and couldn't help but sneer in his heart. Withdrawing all the guards, this was because he was afraid that people would know that he was controlled by others. A dignified city lord being controlled by others, that was a very shameful thing. Moreover, Qin Feiyang also didn't hear the discussion about the commander. It was estimated that this news was deliberately concealed by the city lord. After some searching, Qin Feiyang came to a lake. The lake was about half a mile long, and the clear lake water was covered by layers of ripples under the gentle breeze. The lake was also heavily guarded, and just opposite the lake, there was an exquisite attic. The attic had 3 floors, antique and incomparably gorgeous. Qin Feiyang silently walked to the front of the attic. The door was open, and there was a noise coming from inside. "Mother, how long do I have to stay here?" This was the voice of a young man, and his tone was full of irritation. "Don't worry. Your father said that after killing those 2 people, you can go out and play." This was the voice of a woman, full of doting. "Then when can I kill them?" The young man's voice sounded again. "Soon. Just stay here at ease. Don't run out on your own." Those 2 people even dared to rob the Su family. It can be seen that they are outlaws. If you meet them again, it will be dangerous. You must be obedient. Otherwise, when your father gets angry and really imprisons you, then it's useless for me to plead for you." The woman comforted. "Got it," the young man said, his voice full of impatience. "You child," the voice fell, accompanied by a series of footsteps, and a woman in her 30s with heavy makeup walked out of the attic. And in front of the door, there were 2 guards. Both of them had reached the perfect imperishable realm, which was already very strong. But they didn't notice Qin Feiyang standing to the side. "Greetings, madam." Seeing the woman come out, the 2 hurriedly bowed. At the same time, Qin Feiyang silently passed by the woman and went straight into the attic. After entering the attic, he saw a young man in purple sitting in front of the tea table in the hall, his face full of anger. At the door, the woman looked at the 2 guards and whispered, "You 2 have to look after Feng without our permission. He is not allowed to take half a step out of here." "Yes, madam," the 2 respectfully replied. "Feng be good." The woman turned around and smiled at the young man sitting in the hall, then closed the door and turned to leave quickly. "Damn bastards. I'm locked up here because of them. Just you wait, even if father kills you. I won't let your bodies go. When the time comes, I will chop your bodies into pieces and feed them to the dogs." The young man clenched his fists, his face full of hostility. That's right. This person was the son of the city lord that Qin Feiyang and the woman met in Tianyue Tower, Wang Feng. Chapter 3033. However, before his voice died away, Wang Feng suddenly felt an invisible big hand grabbing his shoulder. The next moment, he appeared in a strange place. Wang Feng was surprised. Now, he was in a stone room. The 4 sides were closed and the stone door was also closed. It was very dark. What was this place? Want to chop me into pieces and feed me to the dogs? Let's see if you have the ability to do so. A voice sounded next to him. When Wang Feng heard this voice, his face suddenly changed, because he would never forget this voice for the rest of his life. Immediately, he turned his head to look at Qin Feiyang next to him. His pupils suddenly shrank, and he was instantly drowned in fear. He roared, "Father! Mother! Save me!" Qin Feiyang crossed his arms in front of his chest and did not stop him. He looked at Wang Feng with ridicule. That's right. This was the ancient castle's cultivation room. "Father! Mother! Did you hear that? Come and save me!" Wang Feng shouted desperately. However, it was like a stone sinking into the sea. There was no response. "Have you shouted enough?" After a long time, Qin Feiyang spoke. Wang Feng glanced at the cultivation room and immediately ran to the stone door. However, the stone door was tightly closed. No matter how hard he tried, he could not break it open. Qin Feiyang simply sat at the desk and looked at Wang Feng with amusement. "What do you want to do?" Wang Feng turned around in despair and looked at Qin Feiyang in horror. "Don't you want to chop me into pieces and feed me to the dogs? I'll give you this chance. Now I'm sitting here. Come, 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 try and see if you can do it." Qin Feiyang pursed his lips with a trace of playfulness. Wang Feng heard this, and the fear on his face became stronger. He could not figure out how Qin Feiyang sneaked into the city lord's mansion. He couldn't figure out how Qin Feiyang managed to enter his loft. One had to know. Whether it was the city lord's mansion or his residence, they were all heavily guarded. Even a fly could not fly in. But this person could actually sneak into the attic. Could this person be a ghost? "What? I don't dare," Qin Feiyang said with a smile. "Brother. No, 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 my lord. Please have mercy. Don't kill me. It's all my fault. I apologize to you. I apologize to you." Wang Feng quivered and immediately knelt on the ground, begging bitterly. "Are you at fault?" Qin Feiyang was taken aback. Yes, yes, yes. I was wrong. I shouldn't have provoked you. I was blind. My lord, I beg of you. Please have mercy and let me go. I'm just a hedonistic scum. I'm not worth your time." Wang Feng cried out. He was extremely terrified. He even dared to rob the Su family so brazenly. What else did he not dare to do? "Indeed, you are not worth my time, but your father is." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. He stood up and waved his hand, sending Wang Feng to another cultivation room. Immediately, Qin Feiyang got up and left the castle. He once again appeared in the hall of the attic. He glanced around and then pushed open the door and walked out. The two guards at the door thought that Wang Feng had run out on his own. They were just trying to persuade him, but when they saw Qin Feiyang's face, they were stunned. Wasn't this the ruthless person who robbed the Su family? How could he come out from here? The two of them came back to their senses and hurriedly ran into the attic. Looking at the empty hall, they immediately realized that something was wrong. Qin Feiyang was still standing outside, admiring the scenery of the lake. The two of them immediately ran out and stared at Qin Feiyang and shouted, "Where's the young master? Where did you take him?" The two of them shouted and immediately alarmed the other guards not far away. They all turned their heads and looked over. Immediately, each and every one of them turned pale with fright. They immediately swarmed over and surrounded Qin Feiyang. "The scenery here is really good." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "Scenery?" The group of guards' faces suddenly darkened. How could he still be in the mood to enjoy the scenery here? "I'm asking you, where's the young master?" The two guards shouted again. "I don't know. He disappeared when I came." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "Liar. The young master was still inside just now." The two of them shouted angrily. "He must have been imprisoned by this person. If you don't believe me, search me." Qin Feiyang was speechless. "Do you think we're stupid? How could such a big person be hiding on you? You must have a space divine object. Quickly call the young master out." The two guards couldn't help but have a murderous look in their eyes. Swish. Qin Feiyang turned to look at the two of them and narrowed his eyes. "I advise you, you'd better put away your killing intent immediately." Their pupils shrank. Although they were in the perfection undead realm and Qin Feiyang was only in the half-step undead realm, they were still a little scared. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, "Let's go. Take me to see the city lord." "No, let him come to see me in person." After saying that, he took out a reclining chair and lay on it, drinking tea while squinting and basking in the sun, looking extremely comfortable. Looking at Qin Feiyang's actions, the group of guards were all dumbfounded. Did he treat this place as his own home? This was too arrogant. This was simply lawless. "Why aren't you going?" Qin Feiyang looked at the group of people, looking sleepy, which made the group of guards so angry that they were about to suffocate. They had never seen such an arrogant person. The two guards looked at the person opposite them and said in a deep voice, "Go and inform the city lord." "Okay." The person nodded and immediately turned and ran away. "Oh no, oh no. That ruthless person came to our city lord's mansion and is now lying in front of the young city lord's courtyard, drinking tea and basking in the sun." Soon, the news of Qin Feiyang's arrival spread like wildfire in the city lord's mansion. Regardless of whether it was the guards of the city lord's mansion or the servant maids, they all ran over. When they saw it, all of them were dumbstruck. Was he really drinking tea and basking in the sun? Wasn't this too leisurely? In the main hall, at this moment, Wang Hui was also somewhat anxious. It had been so long since dawn. Why hadn't he come yet? Could it be that he had received some news and did not dare to come? But that wasn't right. Zhuo Tianqing had come in secret. Other than him and his trusted aides, no one else knew. Besides, if this person really knew that he had found a savior behind his back, he would definitely use this control-type secret technique on him. What was going on? "City Lord." Suddenly, a shout sounded. Wang Hui raised his eyebrows, looked at the guard who ran into the main hall, and said angrily, "Didn't I say that no one is allowed to come over? Lord, quickly go to the young city lord." The guard was out of breath. "Feng'er." Wang Hui was startled and frowned. "What's wrong with him?" The guard took a deep breath, and then said in one breath, "That ruthless person is now with the young city lord." "Ruthless person?" Wang Hui was stunned. The guard said, "It's the person who robbed the Su family." "What?" Wang Hui's expression suddenly changed. Why would he go there? Not good. He would definitely make a move on Feng'er. Wang Hui hurriedly looked at the void and called out, "Lord Zhuo." Zhuo Tianqing appeared and sneered. "I heard it all. This little bastard really dared to come to the city lord's mansion. How dare he? Lord, now is not the time to praise him. My son might have already been killed by him." Wang Hui was extremely anxious. Zhuo Tianqing glanced at Wang Hui, then looked at the guard and asked, "Then where is your young city lord?" "I didn't see him. He seems to have disappeared." The guard shook his head. "Bastard, bastard." Hearing this, Wang Hui was immediately furious. "Take me there. I want to see what kind of ruthless person dares to be so arrogant." Zhuo Tianqing sneered. "Good, good, good." Wang Hui nodded and immediately ran out of the hall. Buzz. But at this moment, the voice of the divine sound stone sounded. Zhuo Tianqing was stunned and took out the divine sound stone. Wang Hui also turned his head suspiciously. A shadow appeared. It was a young man in his 20s. "Father, where are you?" The young man looked at Wang Hui and immediately asked, looking very anxious, "I'm dealing with something in Tianfeng City. What's wrong?" Zhuo Tianqing was suspicious. "My little sister has been kidnapped." The young man said, "What? Little Xian was kidnapped?" Hearing this, Zhuo Tianqing's expression changed instantly, and he roared, "Who kidnapped her? Did you catch them?" "No, but I heard from the guard that it was a man and a dog." The young man shook his head. "A man and a dog?" Zhuo Tianqing frowned, and they seemed to be unfamiliar faces. The young man said again, "Unfamiliar faces." Zhuo Tianqing's eyes flashed coldly as he shouted, "Send someone to find them immediately. I'll be back later. You must find them, or I'll hold you responsible." "Yes." The young man responded respectfully, and the shadow quickly dissipated. "Damn it! How dare you provoke me, Zhuo Tianqing? No matter who you are, I won't let you go." Zhuo Tianqing's face was extremely gloomy. "Sir, what's going on? Someone dares to touch your daughter?" Wang Hui looked at Zhuo Tianqing in horror. Zhuo Tianqing said, "As the lord of a city, It's inevitable to have a few enemies. That's true. Wang Hui nodded and asked carefully, then my place. Since you're here, you should first deal with your matter here. Anyway, it's just 2 ants. It won't take too long. Zhuo Tianqing's eyes were full of contempt. Thank you, sir. Please follow me. Wang Hui smiled gratefully and then rushed toward the lake with Zhuo Tianqing. When the two arrived above the lake and saw Qin Feiyang lying there leisurely, they were both angry and couldn't help but want to laugh. They really didn't know what to say when he dared to cause trouble in someone else's home. City Lord. A group of guards stepped forward and pointed at Qin Feiyang. They were all seething with anger. Qin Feiyang also looked at Wang Hui and Zhuo Tianqing at the same time. Weren't you waiting for me in the main hall? Why did you come here personally? I was just about to say that I'll see you after I wake up. Qin Feiyang looked at the two with a smile. Wake up? When the group heard this, they were instantly speechless. Did he really think the city lord's mansion was his home? That he could sleep whenever he wanted? Zhuo Tianqing looked at Qin Feiyang, and the contempt in his eyes deepened. He asked, is it him? Yes, it's him. Wang Hui nodded. Kid, do you know what kind of place the city lord's mansion is? How dare you come here so brazenly? Zhuo Tianqing looked at Qin Feiyang with disdain. The city lord's mansion is the city lord's mansion. What else could it be? Qin Feiyang laughed. The city lord's mansion is the territory of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. You came to the city lord's mansion to cause trouble, which means you're going against the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Let's not talk nonsense, kill yourself. Zhuo Tianqing looked at Qin Feiyang condescendingly and said in a commanding tone. Chapter 30-34. Suicide? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He retracted his gaze and said with a smile, aren't you tired of standing up there and talking? Come down and chat while drinking tea. Who has time to chat with you? Killing intent surged in Zhuo Tianqing's eyes, and an aura rolled out. Don't say that. You really don't have time. Qin Feiyang chuckled. What do you mean? Zhuo Tianqing raised his eyebrows. I've calculated that something bad must have happened in your family, and you're in a hurry to go back and deal with it. Qin Feiyang said. Zhuo Tianqing's heart trembled when he heard this. Wang Hui's face was filled with bewilderment. How did this little bastard know? Qin Feiyang pretended to count his fingers and then smiled at Zhuo Tianqing. I've calculated again. It should be related to your daughter. Zhuo Tianqing's eyes burst with monstrous killing intent. Qin Feiyang ignored him and said with a smile, do you have time to drink tea with me now? Wang Hui said in surprise, Lord Zhuo. What does he mean? Zhuo Tianqing was silent. He landed opposite Qin Feiyang and said in a deep voice, don't implicate your wife and children. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He raised his head and looked at Zhuo Tianqing. He never expected this person to say such a thing. This sentence was indeed a famous saying. But in today's world, who could really do it? Just like the Blood Palace. If they followed this rule, why would they go all the way to Great Qin to snatch his beloved woman? Or the dragons? If she followed this rule, she wouldn't have used Yi Shui and Old Master Yi to threaten his master, Yi Zhong. So, in today's world, these principles could only be said with words. Just like Zhuo Tianqing. If he had the chance to get close to the people around him, wouldn't he do this? Definitely. People's hearts were like this. When they did it themselves, they took it for granted. When it was someone else's turn, they would say something about it. Little did they know. This was just a kind of fear and a display of humility. Whatever you want to do, I can accompany you to the end, but only my daughter. If you dare to hurt her, I will never let you off. Seeing Qin Feiyang remain silent, Zhuo Tianqing enunciated every word with a gloomy expression. Wang Hui landed in front of Zhuo Tianqing and asked in shock, my lord, are you saying that he kidnapped your daughter? Do you really believe that he can predict the future? Zhuo Tianqing said angrily. Wang Hui's neck shrank as he was overwhelmed with shock. Where did this person come from? He actually dared to kidnap the most precious daughter of Wind Sea City's Vice City Lord Zhuo Tianqing? Wait a minute. Suddenly, Wang Hui realized something important. Qin Feiyang had clearly come prepared this time. Obviously, he already knew that Wang Hui was in the Castellan Manor. But how did he know? Qin Feiyang glanced at Wang Hui, then looked at Zhuo Tiansheng and smiled. Don't be so nervous. Your daughter will be fine. Drink some tea. Qin Feiyang poured 2 cups of tea and pushed them in front of the two of them. The two of them looked at each other. Each took out a chair and sat across from Qin Feiyang. The group of guards looked at each other in dismay. How did they really start drinking? I like peace and quiet. Qin Feiyang chuckled. Zhuo Tiansheng understood and looked at Wang Hui. Tell your men to scram immediately. Yes. Wang Hui hurriedly nodded, looked at the guards around him and said, Hurry up and leave. The group of guards fled in fear. They had long wanted to leave, but they didn't dare. Drink. This is the best tea. Even if you were the city lord, you might not have tasted it before. Qin Feiyang laughed. The two of them looked at the teacup and did not drink. What is it? Are you afraid that I'll poison it? You are all Dominator Realm existences. Can poison you to death? Qin Feiyang sneered. That might not be the case. Zhuo Tiansheng coldly snorted, looked at Wang Hui and said, You drink first? Wang Hui's expression suddenly panicked. Do you need me to say it again? Zhuo Tiansheng's face immediately turned cold. Wang Hui's pupils contracted. He immediately grabbed the teacup, hesitated for a while, and finally gritted his teeth and drank it in one breath. What's going on? Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them suspiciously. Could there really be poison in the Tianyun realm that could poison Dominator Realm experts? In his opinion, Dominator Realm experts were definitely invulnerable to poison. But now it seemed that this was not the case. Otherwise, why would Zhuo Tiansheng be so careful? Zhuo Tiansheng kept staring at Wang Hui. After Wang Hui drank it, he closed his eyes and looked like he was waiting for death. But after a while, nothing happened. And after thinking about it, this tea was really good. Seeing this, only then did Zhuo Tiansheng feel relieved. He put the teacup to his mouth and took a sip. His expression immediately froze. This taste could really be called the best tea. But now, he was not in the mood to drink tea. He was worried about his daughter's safety. See, am I the kind of person who would poison tea? Poisoning tea is an act of blasphemy towards tea. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. The two of them were silent. Don't be stuffy. This heavenly deity dew is not something that ordinary people can taste. Come, try it again. Qin Feiyang poured another cup for the two of them. Zhuo Tiansheng couldn't help but look at Qin Feiyang and ask, What do you want to do? Shouldn't I be asking you this? Why did you come all the way to Tianfeng City? Qin Feiyang laughed. Tianfeng City is under the jurisdiction of Cloud Sea City. Can't I come to take a look? Zhuo Tiansheng said. Qin Feiyang laughed and said, Of course, that's not a problem. But is it really like this? Zhuo Tiansheng was shocked. Why did he feel that this guy had already seen through his purpose of coming to Tianfeng City? Wincy City, Vice City Lord. To be honest, we have no enmity between us. Why do you have to come to kill me? If you didn't come to kill me, then your daughter wouldn't have been taken away. Does this count as you asking for it? Qin Feiyang said lightly. I don't know what you're talking about. Zhuo Tiansheng shook his head, but his heart was extremely flustered. He sent a voice transmission. Wang Hui, how did he know? I don't know either. Wang Hui replied inwardly. His mind was also in a mess right now. And you, Wang Hui? I told you to do your job well, so can't you do it well? Why do you have to play such tricks? Look, now your son is gone. If anything happens to him, who's going to send you off in the future? Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. Wang Hui heard this and became more and more frightened. He really knew everything. Could it be that this person had been watching him? But that was impossible. After returning to Tianfeng City, he was extremely careful. Every once in a while, he would use his divine sense to scan the surroundings, but he didn't find anything like a spatial divine item. Zhuo Tiansheng said in a deep voice, If you came to Tianfeng City because of me, then I can leave immediately. Leave now, and then wait for your daughter to come back and deal with me? Do you think I'm that stupid? Qin Feiyang smiled. Then what do you want? Zhuo Tiansheng said angrily. It's very simple. Come under my command. As long as you and I become a family, then I naturally won't hurt your daughter. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. You? Zhuo Tiansheng looked at Qin Feiyang in shock and anger. He never thought that this person's ambition was so big that he actually wanted to make him submit. Wang Hui was also quite shocked. Controlling him wasn't enough. Now he wanted to control Zhuo Tianxing. Who was Zhuo Tianxing? Greater Mastery Sovereign Realm, and the Vice City Lord of Wind Sea City. Even in the entire Eastern continent, he was one of the top figures. Making such a powerhouse submit, aren't you afraid that your stomach will explode? Don't talk to me about identity and strength. It's useless to me. I'll give you 100 breaths to think about it. Don't blame me for being unkind. Because you provoked me first? I'm already very merciful to let you live. Qin Feiyang said lightly. Zhuo Tianxing was about to use his identity to deter Qin Feiyang. But when he heard Qin Feiyang's words, he took it back. It was obvious that this person was fearless. Even if he used the name of God, he wouldn't be scared. Hurry up and think about it. Qin Feiyang faintly smiled and continued to drink his tea. Zhuo Tianxing's expression was uncertain. From the bottom of his heart, not to mention a mere half-step eternal realm, he wouldn't even be willing to submit to someone stronger than him. But what about his daughter? Leave her to die? He couldn't do it. His daughter was his flesh and blood, and he couldn't be cruel enough to give her up. Sir, if the child is gone, you can have another one. But if you lose your freedom, everything will be over. Let's talk about it later. If you really submit to him and let the big shots of the Alliance know, they won't let you go. Wang Hui said telepathically. Shut up. Isn't this all because of you? Zhuo Tianxing was furious and really wanted to strangle this person. Wang Hui shrank his neck and lowered his head, not daring to say anything. Because he was very familiar with Zhuo Tianxing, who was also a ruthless person. If he angered him, he would really kill him. Time passed breath by breath. Zhuo Tianxing's eyes flashed. He nodded and said, Okay, I'll follow you. Great. Qin Feiyang laughed and formed a seal with both hands. A slave seal immediately appeared. Wait, I want to see my daughter first, Zhuo Tianxing hurriedly said. Qin Feiyang said, You'll see her after you control her. No, I don't know whether my daughter is in your hands or not, Zhuo Tianxing said in a deep voice. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and condensed the figures of the madman and the white-eyed wolf. Of course, they had changed their faces. He said with a smile, Then you can ask your family if they are the ones who kidnapped your daughter. Zhuo Tianxing glanced at the figures of the madman and the white-eyed wolf and immediately took out the voice transmission stone. Soon, the figure of a young man appeared. Zhuo Tianxing pointed at the two figures and said, Look, are they the ones who kidnapped your sister? Yes, it's them. The young man nodded and said, Father, I don't think I told you what they looked like. How did you know? Zhuo Tianxing's face sank. He didn't answer and directly turned off the voice transmission stone. Qin Feiyang laughed and said, So you have a son. You. Zhuo Tianxing immediately glared at Qin Feiyang. As long as one wasn't a fool, one could understand the meaning of these words. If he didn't submit today, not only his daughter, but even his son would be killed. Chapter 30-35. Hurry up, my patience is limited. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Zhuo Tianxing's face was gloomy and uncertain. After a long while, he sighed helplessly and nodded. All right, I submit. After saying that, he closed his eyes and gave up resisting. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the enslavement seal immediately turned into a ray of light, disappearing into the top of Zhuo Tianxing's head. But at this moment, Zhuo Tianxing suddenly opened his eyes, and two cold lights burst out of his eyes as he roared. As long as I capture you, I will naturally be able to save my daughter from your accomplices. This is bad. Qin Feiyang's expression changed. This person was pretending to submit, preparing to resist at the critical moment, causing fatal damage to his soul. Following Zhuo Tianxing's resistance, the enslavement seal immediately shattered, and a tearing pain immediately spread out in his mind. Even with his temperament, he couldn't help but let out a painful howl. His consciousness also fell into darkness. You're still too inexperienced to fight with me. Zhuo Tianxing sneered, stood up and grabbed towards Qin Feiyang. In the nick of time, Qin Feiyang bit his tongue hard, and his consciousness became much clearer. Following closely, with a thought, he instantly disappeared without a trace. Zhuo Tianqing was shocked. He immediately released his spiritual sense and scanned his surroundings. He immediately discovered the Black Tortoise realm. However, he didn't know that this was an independent world. He only thought that it was a spatial divine object. This sudden turn of events caused Wang Hui to be extremely shocked. He didn't expect that Zhuo Tiansheng was actually pretending to be controlled. He also didn't expect that Qin Feiyang's reaction would be so fast, and he would directly hide in the spatial divine object. Black Tortoise Realm. Qin Feiyang appeared in front of the ancient castle, and his entire body immediately fell to the ground. With his last bit of strength, he roared, Dan Wang Kai. After obtaining the Ice Phoenix Flame and the Twin Dragon Cauldron, Dan Wang Kai moved to the cultivation room next door, which became his exclusive alchemy room. Soon, Dan Wang Kai ran in. When he saw Qin Feiyang's condition, his face immediately changed. Quick! Inform the madman and the white-eyed wolf not to go to the city lord's mansion. Also, find the fire lotus and bring her here. Use the Black Tortoise realm and leave the city lord's mansion, Qin Feiyang said weakly. Then, he fell to the ground and fainted. Dan Wankai immediately took out a voice transmission stone and sent a message to the mad scientist and the white-eyed wolf. Qin Feiyang had already distributed the divine sound transmission stone he had bought from the demonic tower to everyone. Everyone in the Devil's Land had it. Above a mountain range, the white-eyed wolf and Madman were activating altars and rushing towards Wind City. Madman was holding an unconscious woman in his arms. The woman was about 20 years old. She had a petite figure and wore a long purple dress. She looked extremely alluring. That woman was none other than Zhuo Shaoxian. Suddenly, the white-eyed wolf stopped. Suspicion flashed in his eyes. He took out a voice transmission stone and inserted his divine sense into it. A message appeared in his mind. Who is it? Madman asked. Dan Wankai. The white-eyed wolf withdrew his divine sense and frowned. Madman was stunned. Why did Dan Wankai send them a message? The white-eyed wolf's mind moved and Dan Wankai's figure appeared. He immediately said, Young master told you not to go to the city lord's mansion. Why? The mad scientist and the white-eyed wolf were surprised. See for yourself. Dan Wankai turned on the divine sound transmission stone. Qin Feiyang, who was lying unconscious on the ground, immediately entered the vision of the man and the wolf. What's going on? The mad scientist and the white-eyed wolf were shocked. Dan Wankai shook his head and said, I was focused on refining pills just now and didn't pay much attention to what happened outside. Seems like it has something to do with Zhuo Tiansheng. The mad scientist's eyes dimmed. Dan Wankai noticed the woman in the mad scientist's arms and asked suspiciously, Who is she? She's called Zhuo Shaoxian, Zhuo Tiansheng's daughter. The mad scientist said. Dan Wankai was confused. Then why are you holding her in your arms? Aren't you from the Blood Demon Tower? The Blood Demon Tower ran to the land of Source a long time ago. The mad scientist shook his head. Is that so? Dan Wankai nodded and said, Find a place to hide first. Don't rush to the city lord's mansion. After that, Dan Wankai turned off the divine sound transmission stone and sent a message to Fire Lotus. After hearing this, Fire Lotus immediately woke up from her seclusion and came to the castle. Looking at Qin Feiyang lying on the ground, she asked, How's the situation? His soul vessel is shattered, but I've already given him a divine sun pill and he's slowly recovering. His life shouldn't be in any danger. Dan Wankai said, The divine sun pill is a pill used to repair the soul vessel in the sky cloud realm. What happened? How did his soul vessel shatter? Fire Lotus frowned. Ever since she handed over the affairs of the Black Tortoise realm to the Big Black Wolf, the 3 Black Leopard brothers, and Pai Lupi, she had been in seclusion, so she didn't know anything about Zhuo Tianqing. I'm not sure about the details. Now is not the time to discuss this. The young master wants you to control the Black Tortoise realm and leave the City Lord's mansion. Dan Wankai said. City Lord's mansion? Fire Lotus was slightly stunned. With a wave of her hand, an image appeared in the void. Zhuo Tianqing and Wang Hui also appeared in the image. The two of them were standing outside, their divine sense locked onto the Black Tortoise realm. Wang Hui said anxiously, Sir, what should we do? Don't panic. Zhuo Tianxing waved his hand and pondered for a while. With a clang, a long black blade appeared. A divine artifact. Wang Hui's eyes lit up. That's right. Zhuo Tianxing had a high-grade divine artifact. Wasn't it more than enough to break open a divine artifact? Zhuo Tianxing grabbed the long black blade and slashed at the black tortoise realm. Not good. Dan Wangcai's expression changed when he saw this. Don't panic. The seal on the ancient castle has been lifted. Not to mention a mere divine artifact. Even a sovereign divine artifact or someone like Old Hai who controls the law of space can't break in. Fire Lotus smiled confidently. Back in the Great Qin Empire, Old Hai was able to use the law of space to enter the Black Tortoise realm purely because he was unprepared. Now that he was prepared, it was naturally different. For example, last time in the Heavenly Cloud Ocean, Old Hai wanted to enter the Black Tortoise realm but was forcefully blocked by the ancient castle. I see. Dan Wangcai breathed a sigh of relief when he heard this. As expected, when the long black blade slashed at the Black Tortoise realm, there was no reaction at all. What's going on? Zhuo Tianxing was dumbfounded. Wang Hui's face was also filled with shock. What level of divine artifact was this divine artifact that even a high-grade divine artifact couldn't break it? It was also at this moment. Fire Lotus controlled the Black Tortoise realm and suddenly rushed into the sky. Sir, it's trying to escape. Wang Hui roared. It's fine, let it escape. Wait until it leaves the city, then I can use my full strength. Zhuo Tianxing secretly sneered. Wang Hui was stunned when he heard this. That's right. The long black blade from before had not recovered. In other words, this high-grade divine artifact had not yet displayed its full strength. Zhuo Tianxing should be worried about the people of Tianfeng City, so he did not use his full strength. Whoosh! As the Black Tortoise realm left, Zhuo Tianxing immediately waved his hand, swept up Wang Hui, and chased after the Black Tortoise realm. One after the other, they quickly flew out of Tianfeng City. Look, it's the city lord. Who's the person next to him? Why does he look a little familiar? Wait, he seems to be the deputy city lord of Wind Sea City, Zhuo Tianxing. That's right, it's him. Back then when I went to Wind Sea City to play, I was fortunate enough to see his heroic appearance. Such a big shot. Why would he come to our Tianfeng City? Look, their expressions don't seem right. Could it be that something big happened again? Many people only saw Zhuo Tianxing and Wang Hui, but not the Black Tortoise realm, so they were all puzzled. However, the news from the City Lord's mansion also spread out very quickly. What? They actually ran into the City Lord's mansion so brazenly again? This is simply lawless. Could it be that the City Lord and Zhuo Tianxing's expressions are so gloomy? Everyone was in disbelief. Imolu. Li Yunxia stood in front of the window, watching Wang Hui and Zhuo Tianxing disappear outside the city, her brows tightly knitted together. She naturally recognized Zhuo Tianxing at a glance. She did not expect that Zhuo Tianxing would actually be in Tianfeng City. This time, she roughly understood why Qin Feiyang wanted to inquire about Zhuo Tianxing's situation. Tower Lord, according to the rumors outside, those two ruthless people broke into the City Lord's mansion and kidnapped Wang Hui's son. A guard of Mo Lu walked into the study and said while looking at Li Yunxia's back, I know. Li Yunxia nodded. The guard turned around and left. Li Yunxia pondered for a moment and took out the sound transmission god stone. Buzz. Very quickly, Chu Yun's figure appeared. Greetings, Miss Yun. Li Yunxia bowed respectfully. What's wrong? Chu Yun was puzzled. Li Yunxia rubbed her forehead and said, This Qin Feiyang and madman have caused a huge commotion in Tianfeng City again. What is it? Chu Yun was curious. They broke into the City Lord's mansion and kidnapped Wang Hui's son. They seemed to have offended Zhuo Tianxing. Li Yunxia was helpless. Couldn't they stop? Zhuo Tianxing? Chu Yun was slightly stunned and asked, Are you talking about the Deputy City Lord of Wind Sea City? Yes. Li Yunxia nodded. They are indeed some troublemakers. They even dare to provoke such a person. Chu Yun shook her head and smiled bitterly. Li Yunxia asked, Miss, do we care about this matter? Care? Why should we care? These years, The people of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance have become more and more arrogant. I have long wanted to kill their spirit. Since this Qin Feiyong has bumped into them, then let them have some fun. Chu Yun smiled. But the Rogue Cultivator Alliance is so strong. Is Qin Feiyong their match? Li Yunxia was a little worried. Don't underestimate this Qin Feiyong. His strength is not as simple as you think. In short, we just have to wait and watch the show. In addition, tell all the nearby demon towers not to interfere. This is a personal grudge between Qin Feiyong and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. It has nothing to do with our demon palace. After Chu Yun gave her instructions, the phantom image dissipated. Li Yunxia put away the divine sound transmission stone and looked out of the window with a trace of shock. Don't underestimate Qin Feiyong. Wait and watch the show. He never thought that Miss Chu Yun would actually say such words. Others might not know Chu Yun's identity in the Demon Palace, but as the Tower Master of the Demon Tower, she was quite clear. To be able to make Chu Yun say such words, she was definitely not an ordinary person. But what was the background of Qin Feiyong? Why had she never heard of him before? You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.